We are live. What's going on, Joey?
Not a whole lot, man. What's going on with you?
Well, I'm about to start another file on one of my favorite games of all time. When I saw the footage of Resident Evil 4 Remake, I was like, we got to talk about this, man. We got to talk about this, definitely. We were talking earlier on the before we started that you've never actually played Resident Evil 4 before, like in a long time since the original release.
Yeah, so I played this on GameCube release. I rented it when it first came out, and then when it came out on Wii, I bought it.
Right.
And I played the shit out of it. I did all the extra stuff and what's the Mercenaries mode? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Mercenaries.
Yeah, so I did that, and yeah, I actually really enjoyed this game. I think that there's a lot to be said about what it did for the series as a whole and like the tone and whatever, but
what it did for gaming overall. I mean, it had tremendous influence.
Yeah, and that being said, though, I get a lot of those criticisms, and I actually do kind of share them. But as a video game, I think it's a good ass video game in a vacuum.
Criticisms like what were examples that stick in your mind?
The tone of the series, being more action-oriented when it always was very atmospheric.
Spooky, yeah.
Yeah, taking away the more, I guess, trying survival horror aspects.
Yeah.
I feel like making it be so loose, definitely, and getting rid of the tank controls and fixed angles definitely did a lot for just the tone of the game. And just the way the gameplay experience and progression is tied, I feel like it's just a lot different. But yeah. Could I actually ask you a favor?
Yeah, sure.
Can you stream this to the Discord, or else I'll have to deal with lag, like the stream lag?
Yeah. Let me see if all right, I'll give it a try, but there's a chance that it might crash the stream too. We'll see.
If it does, I haven't made the tweet yet, so it'll be okay.
Okay. I'm just saying that there's a chance that it might crash the stream because this is kind of a lot for my computer to juggle. I'll try my best. By the way, I haven't opened this game in a while. It still looks great. Wow.
Yeah, it actually really does.
First thing you gotta do is just get everything nice and organized. I don't know if I necessarily agree with complete tone shift. What's going on, Seth? I don't know if I completely agree with complete tone shift because there is a lot of quiet moments in RE4 that are just contemplative and slow and intense. Are you familiar with the concept of quiet time in just media in general? You ever heard of that?
Oh yeah.
So you know what I'm about to say then. So you already know that.
Yeah. No, I see that. But okay, I get that, and I do think the gameplay pace is sort of, it does have that element. That's a through line through, I think, the first 4 games, maybe.
Right.
I guess a little bit in 5, but maybe less. But yeah, either way, I don't know. Just the way this game definitely tries to be something different. The excuse the analog I always use is, think of it like Alien versus Aliens.
Yes.
Right? Alien is a very atmospheric, it's a very cold thriller, right? And then
right.
Aliens is more action oriented. It's more about action bits and story beats rather than just revelations through context and texture, right? So,
right.
There's good and bad to both. And even this right here, this is this whole sequence right here is a total throwback to RE1.
Yeah, the face reveal.
The zombie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff like that. I mean, it's granted it's a wholly different experience, but
I was wondering if you might recognize
there is. It's not like that they completely try to distance themselves from what Resident Evil does. I think it gets too much scrutiny in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why Capcom did it. With any product that you make, and this is especially true with a horror franchise, if you do your job too well, you're gonna scare the pants off of your consumer base so they won't even play the game in the first place. So they decided to go with broad appeal. Okay, let's make our game an action game instead. So if it's not as scary, more people will buy it, we'll make more money, therefore good product. Bing, bang, boom.
And there's kind of an irony in there too, because I feel like later Resident Evil games definitely tried to be more horror oriented, like 7 and 8 even. Maybe 8 less so, but
yeah.
But to neutralize it. There's still others.
No, 7 has great atmosphere. I never played it personally, but I did watch a Let's Play of it, and they 100% kind of reined in their original. They fixed the course that they were heading, because you know 5 and 6 were just batshit insane, and that can be fun for its own reasons. But the original pure appeal of the series was I want to be scared, right? And
yeah. Well, you know what? Actually, I kind of disagree with that.
Okay.
But finish your thought. Sorry,
no,
I didn't mean to
the short
interrupt.
version is, like, at least position I'm holding right now, is that RE5 tests the waters of being more action-oriented, whereas RE5 commits to it a little bit more, and then RE6 just completely just said, fuck it, we're just an action series now, we don't care anymore.
Yeah, and so okay, that's for sure. And that to me, that's the slippery slope Resident Evil beat. You know, like that sounds like I'm like skeptical of it, but I do think it's true. Like
Yeah.
the way that the series developed after this game, or at least like after 4 and before 7, was really weird and rocky.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean I don't know. Like I think that 4 to me was a good blending of like the action and the horror aspects.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how I feel too. Like, RE4 does have genuine moments of spooky. It does get scary. I mean, I played this game inside and out. Like, it doesn't scare me anymore. But when I was 16 and I played this for the first time, the Ganados Chainsaw Man scared the shit out of me, all right? I was scared. Inexperience sometimes, just new things, new perspective, just the stress of having to deal with all these enemies that are just dogpiling you. It's a lot to take in.
Oh, yeah.
No. 666 mentions regenerators. Fuck regenerators, all right? Those things stressed me out. Regenerators are legitimately scary. I'm excited by how RE Remake's going to interpret them.
Yeah, I think the regenerators are a really good example of like something that is very of the time, and it's going to be difficult to bring the 2000. When did this game come out? 2004?
I want to say 2004. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Or is it a little later? Well, let me double check.
Yeah, please.
Maybe 2006. Hold on. Let's see.
His name is Dr. Salvador. Yes, I understand his name's Dr. Salvador. I just like calling him Chainsaw Man because that sounds spooky scary.
Yeah, but yeah, this is such an interesting period of time for game dev and for game release. I think like, you know, you're coming off you're in like the late stage PS2, GameCube era.
Right.
Xbox is coming out and it's like pushing more edgy stuff. Like there was a lot of experimentation that just happened, and now you're kind of settling on more, I guess, like grounded concepts. But like I still think that like this game is such an interesting mile marker for what video games were at the time. Like if you were like, hey, what's a video game that perfectly sums up to 2005, I'd give you this game, for better or worse.
Yeah, no. I mean, the 2000 to 2010 was a great time for games. I dare call it the golden age. So many good games came out during that time period. Metal Gear Solid 3, I believe, was around that time period. Ninja Gaiden Black, Resident Evil 4. Just so many titles that I'm going to look back and think about fondly for the rest of my life, because they're just really well made. They just stick out so well.
Hey, Saul, bring your chainsaw over here, huh? Yeah, just gonna bring a big old chainsaw over there, okay? You got a bear trap?
Better call Chainsaw.
Chainsaw. Yeah, the bear traps I remember pissed me right off.
Oh yeah, no. I've stepped on those things so many times now. I pretty much got the map layout laid out in my head. I'll try my best to be cinematic, but unfortunately, I know everything that's going to be happening. I'm just going to be decimating this village. I'm sorry, but And it works out fine. One of my favorite things about this game is the context of what you're playing as. You're playing as Secret Agent Leon, all right? The man is literally a walking doomsday device, all right?
Yeah, that's true.
So it makes sense that you're so powerful and competent. Like, when you're this fast and responsive, you're just strong, you know?
Dukenny says, I started playing this game today on Nintendo Switch, but I felt the camera was hard to control compared to the new generation games. So let me ask you something, Dukenny. Have you not played any Resident Evil before, like, the last couple games then? You never played, like, 1, 2, 3, or 4?
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of which, Vince,
yeah,
what is your history with this game, man? Like, how did you get into it?
So
Did you play
my history with Resident Evil started with Resident Evil 1 remake. It's kind of a funny reason why I got into Resident Evil in the first place. Jill Valentine is literally perfect. I think she's so cute. So when I saw her in the game, I just thought to myself, I have to play this game now. Even though I don't like horror games, I'm not good at horror games. I'm actually get scared pretty easily. But I overcame my fear because I thought Jill Valentine was a complete cutie patootie. So I started with Resident Evil 1 Remake. It's still one of my favorite games of all time, by the way. That's
a really good way to start, I think.
Yeah, no, Resident Evil 1 Remake, I would argue, is one of the greatest horror games ever made. And going from that momentum, when Resident Evil 4 was announced, I was about 16 years old. And I just thought to myself, oh, that looks cool. I like Resident Evil 1, I'll like Resident Evil 4. So I just gave it a shot. By the way, GameTech07 is a bot. Let's get rid of him, please.
Yeah, I got it.
Thank you.
I was like literally on that, yeah.
Take a look.
So I saw it in action, and I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And I played it for the first time when I was about 16 years old. Scared the pants off of me. And then, well, I'm not like super well off. So RE4 was one of the few games that I actually had in my house. So I just played it a lot, over and over again. I'd beat it, and then I'd play it again, and then again, and then again. Then I played the Mercenaries, and then I unlocked the hand cannon when I did everything. So I have a lot of... I'm heavily biased towards my favoritism towards this game. I love it. I love it, love it, love it.
And so Dukenny says that they played 1 and 2 in 97, 98. Hey, same. And then they said that last month that they started RE7. So, okay, that's an interesting trajectory. And I definitely relate to that. Like, if you're going, if you haven't played the series in a long time and then you come back and then you start with RE7, going back to this is going to be really weird because it's like, you know, it's obviously not tank controls, but it's not nearly as smooth as RE7 or RE8.
Yeah, I never played a 7 or 8. The first person controls was a direction I didn't care for personally. Let's see.
Yeah, like, okay, I like it a lot actually, because to me, I like that Resident Evil is always doing something a little different. You know, I mean, maybe not necessarily unique, but
yeah,
I like how like they change it up. And part of me wishes that they went back to a more like Silent Hill kind of style, but at the same time, I do try to appreciate all the new things. I will say though, if you are coming back to RE4 and you haven't really played it before and you're playing it for the first time,
yeah,
just it'll take a little while for it to sort of set in, you know. And but I really do recommend just sitting down and letting it marinate a little bit with you.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I would agree with that, because the difference in play style is just, it takes a lot of time to get used to. Like RE1 Remake on the PC, at least the remastered version, provides a concession for players where you don't have to deal with tank controls anymore. You don't have to deal with tank controls. There's an alternative control option where you can just, you press up and you go up. You press down, you go down. It's great.
Vince, when you get a chance, the top scroll is not Resident Evil 4. I forgot when we changed the overlay, that didn't change. So
oh, for real? Okay.
When you get a chance, yeah.
Let's fix that then. So let's so you said go to the top scroll. Okay. Let's oops. We forgot.
So when you open up, when you open up Streamlabs, the thing is called top scroll.
Okay, so let's go. We'll fix that real quick. That's an easy fix. This is going to be...
right-click, properties.
Yeah, I see it. What do you want to call this? Resident Evil...
It's up to you. Resident Evil 4 discussion, Resident Evil
Remake.
4 gameplay, whatever. And then make sure you put some spaces in there after. Let's see.
I'm gonna call this Resident Evil 4 remake discussion. Frowny and Joey. How's that sound?
Okay, sounds good, man. Just make sure you put spaces after the last line, like 3 spaces after it.
How's it look?
It's scrolling. It's gonna take a second. It should have been in caps, but that's fine. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
It's not a big deal. And I want to address something that Sphere says, and that's that doing everything in this game is so satisfying. I think that, like, even if you're an RE4 hater, that's something.
I'm sorry, but who hates RE4? Who are these people?
There's people in this chat right now who hate RE4.
I would love to have, like, pick your brain, because that fascinates me. I was on a RE4 subreddit, and someone was explaining how they fucking hate the controls in this game, and, like, I guess I can get why people have trouble with it. It's a little unintuitive at first, but, like, just knowing that if I hold forward, I'm always gonna have an idea of where I'm going. So it's not, I don't find it that bad personally, but I guess I can understand people having trouble. It just comes down to how willing are you to adjust to discomfort for a little while until it becomes intuitive.
So there's one thing about RE4 that I understand. Solstice, this is being played on PC, the Steam version.
Yes.
There's one thing that I totally understand. So Resident Evil started out as, because you mentioned that the one thing I was going to actually bring up before is that you mentioned that, like, the games were kind of designed to scare the shit out of you.
Yes.
And I kind of disagree with that, because I think that's definitely part of it, right? That's a big part of it.
Okay.
But I think the essence of Resident Evil to me is a sort of like Japanese take on what a lot of Western horror films were doing, right? So, and like during that time in the 90s and the late 80s, Western horror films were also doing something similar to RE4. Holy shit, that's a lot of guys. We're doing something similar to RE4 where it was somewhere between action and horror.
Right.
Right. And so a big part of the first Resident Evil, and even going into the second, is the juggling of cheesy camp versus genuine ambient.
That wasn't supposed to happen.
Oh no! Oh no!
That was not supposed to happen. Oh well, there's my first death.
Yay!
I got cocky. All right, it's fine. I'll do it again. But no, I 100% where you're coming from. I 100% know where you're coming from, because, like, RE1 definitely taps into that more and more as well. Like, you tend to forget, because at the very end of the game, during the lab sequence, during the lab sequence at the very end of the game, you start getting access to more ammo. You start getting access to more powerful weapons, and you stop worrying about conserving ammo as much. So what ends up happening instead, and this is played through in every single Resident Evil game now that I think about it. So what happens in every single Resident Evil game is you start with just very, very strict resource management, right? And then as you continue through the game, you start getting access to more powerful weapons. You start getting access to more powerful resources. You don't have to conserve as much. And then you can just basically just go on a manhunt and just start blasting away at everything that was previously, stressing you out. So it turns into a power fantasy rather than.
Yes, it does. The power creep at the end of RE1 and RE2 is insane. I love it. I feel like that's one of the things that that really, like, hits the mark in such an interesting way for this series. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's kind of what RE4 tried to do the entire time. You know, they tried to encapsulate that moment, that feeling throughout the entirety of the game.
Yeah.
So it's
skip that
like,
again.
Just, I guess just as have you played the very original, the PS1 RE1?
No, I actually never played the original RE1 on PlayStation. I just never got around to it. I mean, I come from an action game background. That's the reason why I like Resident Evil 4 so much, is because the responses on the controls are just so good. It feels really, really good to play this game. So,
and going back to RE1, PS1 is rough. It's honestly rough.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not ashamed to admit that, like, sometimes a game's presentation being on the weak side is gonna kind of turn me off from wanting to play it. RE4 still looks great. I still think this looks fantastic.
Yeah, and a lot of people talk some shit about the color palette and the style of it and blah blah blah, but I don't know, man. To me, it feels stylized, right?
Yeah.
You probably want to not put your back in the corner there.
No, trust me, this is exactly where I want to be.
You want to be okay?
So trust me, this list looks insane, but bear with me.
You do, yeah. There, you get that. I guess, yeah, you do have that.
This is exactly where I want to be.
There we go.
The reason why there's an advantage, I'm just going to explain my tactics of what I'm doing right now. So the reason why I want to be here is because it bottlenecks every single Ganado into one direction. I know where they're going to be coming from at all times. I don't get surrounded. I don't get pot shots taken at me from the side. I'm able to always guarantee exactly where all enemies are coming from. So this is exactly where I want to be.
These are Counter-Strike 1.6 strats, and I'm a big fan of that.
I love it.
I forgot that there's like AoE with the kick in this game. That's so funny.
Like I said, that's another thing I love about this game so much, is that the rules are consistent. Everything is like really twitchy and reactive. It's just
it's definitely twitchy. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that's why I love it, because I'm a big boomer shooter, Twitch shooter kind of guy. Like, you know, I think any once on-rails shooters became a thing, FPS games lost me. Like, once the arcadey elements were sort of taken out and sort of replaced with, or put in favor of stuff like loadouts and prestiging and all that kind of stuff, it lost me.
Those are words.
500 years old.
I actually don't know what prestiging means. What does that even mean?
So like in modern games like Call of Duty and stuff, like as you rank up, you know, you unlock new things to put, like equipment and weapons and whatever to put in your loadout.
Yeah.
And then like a big part of the gameplay loop is like you hit max rank and then start from 0 again, or start from 1 again.
Right.
And so like the big part of the gameplay loop is that like sometimes you just kind of constantly go through that ranking up system. Like, it's not until like you hit max rank that you really unlock everything that you can use.
Right.
A lot of it's not super useful, but I just don't like having to plan stuff out. Like when games and FPS games use a map for items and weapons rather than just cover spots, I feel like it adds way more strategy and again way more arcadiness, much less realism. But you know, like when there's a rocket launcher on the map and everybody like tries to go for that one spot and there's strategy involved and whatever, you know, I love that a lot. I think the noted exception is Counter-Strike, because that game is based off of loadouts.
Right.
But at the same time, I don't know, Counter-Strike still has that very implicit, like almost Unreal tournament kind of flow.
And that's a really interesting dilemma that game developers have to like reconcile with, or choose what direction they want to go with. Like arcadey mechanics and fast twitchy responses that are less quote unquote realistic feels good to play. Like when you do a thing and the game just goes, okay, we're doing that. It just feels good. It makes you feel like you're in complete control of what you're doing, and it's responsive, and it gives you that neuron activation, you know, and that's Resident Evil 4. But I guess that's the next subject that I want to kind of like go into, is with game mechanic, game feel versus tone. So Resident Evil 1 Remake, as my benchmark for perspective on reference, is a very more toned, prioritized game rather than gameplay, because your control is tanky, your character is a little jank. The way you move is a little weird. There's a bit of a delay for when you hold up your aim and shoot. And this is all in service of maintaining the tone of the game, because you're in a survival horror scenario. You're either a rookie cop or you're in over your head. You're dealing with monsters. You're scared. The game's supposed to be spooky, scary. All right. So with knowing that, with this new direction that Resident Evil 4 Remake looks like it's going, I get the impression that there's not going to be this fast, tight controls that we're going to be having like in the original Resident Evil 4. The controls are going to be dialed back, and I'm okay
you think
with
so?
it. Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that's going to be the case.
Interesting. Yeah. I think that like judging based off of the last couple games that they've put out, that's very likely.
Mm-hmm.
But in a way, I would be totally fine with that too, because there's always mercenaries mode. There's always all the extra shit that they'll add, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
If you still wanted to get a more like original RE4 feel. So honestly, I'd be totally open with them experimenting, like, because to me, RE4 isn't a game that you one-to-one remake, and I could be wrong here, but this is just my opinion. Like, RE1, sure. Like, I feel like one of the reasons why the RE1 remake was so solid is because it really did capture like most of how that game felt, but just a little bit cleaner.
Right. It basically just took the bone structure that was laid out in the first game and refined it. It's one of the few times where I would say that this is a perfect remake. It just does what the original did and made it better. That said, RE4 is widely considered to be one of the greatest games ever made. There's very little fat to cut, if any at all. Someone mentioned in chat that QuickTime events are a problem, and 100% I agree with that. But this is just something like, as is, I love RE4 as it is right now, and there's really nothing I would want to change about that, even the QuickTime events. But that's the reason why I'm okay with an RE4 remake, because it gives you a chance to right the wrongs on the few things that RE4 did wrong, and including QuickTime events. The other is the lack of scares. I want a more consistent, scary tone with the game. I want Resident Evil 4 to scare me.
And I think that there are a lot of things that they can add to the game to make it more spooky while also still retaining the tone of the original.
Yeah,
for sure. Especially like, to me, this first part is the scariest part, because you're unsure of the world yet. You're not actually, you haven't really, the rules haven't been established yet.
Yes.
And so like, you're trying to figure out what's going on. That uncertainty is kind of scary. Mm-hmm. Once you start getting past the village and you go into like the church-ish area, everything kind of becomes campy fuckfest. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's just something that tonal shift is going to be a big point of contention for the remake, for sure.
I think it could be done. There was gameplay footage. There was some footage showing Ganados in action, and they look terrifying. All right, they got bloodshot eyes. They're all like freaky looking because the parasites like taking over. There's a way to like make enemies like more intimidating to deal with.
Oh yeah, and one of the things that happened in this game is, and as we've already seen it, is that they do the very action gameplay thing where they're just like, oh, here's 5,000 enemies,
right?
And that doesn't really, I don't think that works super well with Resident Evil as a horror game,
right?
And so there's a good question in here about, do you keep the camp in the remake or do they play it straight? So okay, John says that cut it out, make it tonally in line with 2 and 3. And yeah, that would be really sick, but I don't trust a game this big with a developer like Capcom to stick to their guns with that, right?
Wow.
So, don't get me wrong.
Is there a reason why? What's your reasoning?
Yeah, so I think Capcom has done a 180 over the last couple years. They've definitely they've started to understand like what makes people like their games a little bit more.
Right.
But the operative phrase there is little bit more. And I don't remember, Resident Evil is one of their biggest selling franchises. They don't want to make it too atmospheric and too ambient because it's gonna put off little Timmy. It's gonna put off
Yeah. Okay.
ADHD
So what
Adam.
you're saying is that this goes back to the original statement I made at the start of the conversation was that they want to prioritize broad appeal. They want to make
Yes.
sure that they still have broad appeal to get better sales, and
Right.
I get that. I do get that.
And I think that this game was so conducive to that because it was such an easy sell for the time. And but that being said, like historical context doesn't affect the remake as much, you know. So ideally, I would love to see this game redone in a style akin to RE2 remake.
I wouldn't mind that.
Or hell, even RE7. I think that could be really, really interesting.
I mean, there is RE4 VR. Does that kind of count? I mean, to get your first-person shooter fix.
You know what? I haven't played it. I can't attest.
Okay.
But, like I said, I haven't played through RE4 since the Wii version came out. Like the first couple of weeks it came out, so it's been a long time. But yeah, you know, I think that like that's what John is suggesting is my ideal. But like, what the actual will be is probably something that plays a lot like this, but toned down, scaled back, with more RE2 remake kind of elements, but not completely fully RE2 remake.
Shit.
So it'll be a weird composite of things, I think.
And I think so maybe like instead of like making the game like 75% action, 25% horror, maybe gear it up to I don't know like 40% horror, 60% action.
Yeah. That's pretty much the same kind of ratio I would expect. Maybe like, you know, numbers notwithstanding, but that like kind of degree of percentage.
In order to
right?
pull that off, I would say that would mean that the controls would have to stay arcadey and twitchy then, because if you want to have large numbers of enemies on the screen and constantly like pushing you to perform well with that greater control, that means you're gonna have to have, you know, a more arcadey actiony style game, which is very satisfying to play, but it dials back the intensity of the horror as a result. And I think you can try to have a little bit of both, just it's unlikely. I also think there's a big FromSoft influence that's like pressing on Capcom right now. So, okay, so there's two things about this, and John actually just mentioned this in the chat. Okay.
They've already hinted at the RE4 remake being different, and there's a lot of things you could read from that. Like, you can read from the trailer that it feels different.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why they didn't show gameplay right away is because they didn't want to take people out too much. They wanted to give you, like, a first look at the game being very neutral, but there's definitely some hints there. The way that the engine looks, just the physics of it, already look a little bit looser than RE2 remake, but not as loose as this, if that makes sense. Like just the way the physics move, the characters move.
I mean, the game's been known. The game is synonymous with action game type controls, so I don't expect them to dial it back too much. But just the very nature of going towards a Resident Evil 2 remake style gameplay is going to be a quote unquote step backwards from RE4's tight control and game mechanics. So by just that inherent shift, it's going to be different. It's going to feel different.
Totally. And John also says that he thinks that they're changing story beats too, like they did with 2 and 3.
I 100%. I'm okay with that, by the way, because RE4. I love the game for all its campy moments and its silly moments, but there's a lot of fluff in it too. There's a lot of things that we just don't need to have this here.
That being said, I don't really like a lot of the changes that they made to the RE2 remake story stuff. Yeah, I mean, I haven't played the RE3 remake outside of the demo, but the RE3 remake actually brings me to my next point when I mentioned or hinted toward the FromSoft influence, right?
Right.
So are those supposed to be? No, I thought that was like supposed to be a Dreamcatcher or something. But yeah, sorry. Either way, like RE3 has that like parry mechanic.
Yes.
You know, and I think that like the remake at least. I mean, the original has something kind of similar too. But I'm almost pretty convinced they're going to try to slow down the gameplay, but also add some kind of new mechanic that functions similarly to a parry or like a riposte or something.
Yeah,
like
so like some kind of dodge mechanic in the game. Because I mean, I'm not inherently against that. It's just the problem is that that's inherently counterintuitive to the tone claim that that RE4 Remake seems to be implying it's going to be going. So if you have a twitchy, reliable dodge mechanic, enemies are no longer a spooky, scary thing that's going to eat your face. It just becomes a dodge prompt.
Right. And you know what? Hey, maybe that kind of functions as the QTE element of the game, though. Right?
I mean, at least it'd be consistent. It wouldn't be randomized anymore. I guess I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, so I'm interested, man. I'm kind of optimistic about it. When I first heard that this game was getting remade, I was kind of like, why?
Yeah.
Because to me, this game, I don't want to say, I hate the phrase aged well or aged worse because it's very loaded.
Right.
But that being said, like I think that this game just stands on its own pretty well. It doesn't necessarily need to be remade, but I see the potential in changing things up for a remake.
Yeah. I'm all for it. I was initially a little hesitant, but I'm super excited for the concept of a scarier Resident Evil 4. This has been a discussion I've had with all my friends. Everyone's had the same take over and over again. I don't know if I feel excited for it or not. I'm here for it. I want a Resident Evil 4 remake. Because the thing is, the original is going to exist forever. This is one of the greatest games of all time. If Capcom is smart and likes money, they will make this available at all times to always be available for purchase. So, knowing that.
Yeah, so, yeah, and it is. It's already, RE4 is already super accessible on every console. Like,
yes.
You know, you have the VR port, you have the Steam port, the trophy support for PS4. There's so much stuff. So, yeah, you're right. It's not, like, you know, a lot of people say, like, oh, the remake doesn't change the original or whatever. And that's true. But sometimes it can affect perception because, you know, accessibility. You know, like a really good example of this is like, I don't know, something like Lunar Silver Star, right? Like when Lunar Silver Star got remade for the PlayStation 1, it's not like there was a ready accessible port of it of the Sega CD version, right? And that, you know, like there was a lot of stuff you'd have to do to play that original version. With RE4, you don't have to do that.
Right.
But oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, Seth, you're right. There is no platinum. I forgot about that. But there's trophy support, I guess. You get that. But no, I do think that that's really interesting, and I think that does sort of change the dynamic of what this remake will be. I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
For you guys, for everyone in the chat who is a RE4 hater, who thinks it's mierda. That's the awesome Spanish.
Good. Identify yourself so I can fight all of you.
Yeah, no, I think their identification has been
me?
prompted. It's John and Tony. Spoilers.
Okay.
It's funny though because the oldest people. Wait, hold on, Steph. Are you a hater too? Okay, I did want to roll the R solstice. I didn't know actually where the accent is on it. I didn't want to just have a loosely rolled R. I also know zero Spanish, but that Tony described it as that, so I had to use the word.
Not like them?
Your tank controls main.
You?
My man.
I see. Okay, I see how it is.
Okay.
But yeah, so for those of you who are dunking on it, what do you think could be done in a remake to make you actually enjoy this game while also keeping it faithful?
Yeah, that's good. That's a good question. I like that.
What?
Damn, second favorite game of all time.
Yeah, it's up there with my top 5 as well.
I have to be honest though, I'm a very casual Resident Evil fan.
I would say I'm relatively casual as well. Go ahead.
I like really atmospheric stuff a lot. You know, things like Hyper Light Drifter, even Hollow Knight, even though I was dunking on Hollow Knight the other day. Hollow Knight, the Returnal, all those, like, I fucking love atmosphere in games so much, and it can carry the lack of gameplay hardcore for me.
Oh, absolutely. That's how I felt about RE1 Remake. Is that the gameplay itself is very simple. I mean, ultimately, it's just aim and shoot, collect stuff, resource management, bing bang boom. But the reason why the game sticks with me even to this day is that when you enter the mansion and you're just walking around, you hear your own footsteps and like you just every little detail that's going on, the fire crackling from a fireplace, the moan of a zombie in the other room. These things stick with you and it makes you go, oh shit, this is intense. I love that kind of atmosphere. That's just something that I want more of out of this game.
Right, and I do think one thing that is sort of, I think a lot of RE4 haters miss the point on a little bit, is that
this girl. Seen her?
level design, right?
Yeah.
People always an argument I hear is, oh, the tank control games, they feel a lot more deliberate because of everything that you just said, Vince. And,
Yeah.
She's the president's daughter.
but it's not like that RE4 doesn't have that. It just has that in a
explaining?
different style,
Yes.
in a different genre. Like even you already saw, like those windows are designed so you funnel enemies into like spots that you can throw grenades at them. It's
Yep.
not like the idea of like atmosphere doesn't always mean that it's not okay. The lack of atmosphere
who
doesn't
might you
mean
be?
that it's not deliberate level design.
I think it's just, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Y'all need to get good. There is a lot of like really clever ways to utilize the environment to work to your advantage. Like what I just did earlier during the stream. I mean, I got my head cut off, but I utilized the corners of the room to prevent myself from getting surrounded. You have a lot of different tools to work with for every situation. You have splash damage. You have the melee attacks, which let you save ammo. There's a lot of strategy to this game that just makes it so intoxicating to get good at.
That is the incident with the viral outbreak, right?
So I'm kind of like a moderate RE4 fan, right? Like I love this game. I love playing this game. I love the fucking ridiculous spectacle that it presents.
Yeah.
But problematic as it may be at times. But that being said, I don't know if I would put it in my top 3 games, RE games. But again, I'm kind of a casual fan. I usually only play these games just once on the default difficulty, and that's it.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. Like, that's going to be your normal consumer for video games in general. They'll buy a product, they'll play it once, and then they'll uninstall it and forget about it, forget it exists. So, is it any surprise that Capcom is going to be trying to make this have much more broad appeal? I'm sorry, but numbers talk, money talks. I do expect some degree of accommodations for players for more broad appeal. I just hope that, like Sick mentioned, that the original game is always going to exist. The original game's always going to exist. So why not try something different and make it scary? Let's try to make it stand on its own. It doesn't have to just retread the same path that RE4 already set.
Yeah, I totally agree. I like the phrase "bring RE4 back into the horror space."
Yes.
I love that, actually. I feel like if that is like a major tenet of the RE4 remake design philosophy, I'm 100% backing that on Kickstarter. Not literally,
Lady D
I
shows
think
up and
that'd be
punches
really cool.
Ashley Retcon. Oh god.
But Vince, because you're a big fan of the combat and the style of this game, how would
Absolutely.
you feel if this got dialed back to, let's just say, RE1 remake feel and tone, and mechanics and combat? How would you feel about that?
So taking it more towards RE2 remake, or
Yeah. Like, let's say this shit brought back, Frowny brought back tank controls with the RE4 remake. How would you feel about that?
I mean, I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind it. Like, the thing is like, any gameplay style that you play, if you practice enough, you'll get used to it. You will get used to it. It just comes down to, are you willing to commit the time to get used to it? And unfortunately, people hate change, all right? We got the thing. I learned a thing. My brain's neural pathways have been set. I don't want to learn anything new. I don't want to try something different. Give me something I'm familiar with already.
What are you selling?
And that's going to be a problem Capcom's going to have to deal with every single time they make a new RE game. Now,
Yeah,
100%.
Yes.
Just to finish the thought, I'll wrap up soon. Just to finish the thought.
No, I'm just highlighting.
There are 100%. There are people like me that like fixed camera angles. All right, we like that kind of stuff, but unfortunately, fans like us just don't have the numbers to incentivize Capcom to do it. I'm sorry, but over-the-shoulder, modernized controls are just more appealing for broader audiences. We don't get to have what we want. You're out of luck. You know? So I don't mind getting used to the new controls, because I haven't played RE2 Remake. Not yet. I'm going to save that for October. But I don't mind it, and I'm willing to give it a shot. Just the very concept of the game itself is appealing enough for me to give it a chance. And I think most people feel that way.
Yeah, I think what you were touching on there was exactly what I was trying to discuss earlier about, like,
Yes.
Capcom not going fully one way, right? CG toe. Like, I don't think that it'll happen because of that appeal. And also, Capcom is a very sensitive company about like their presentation of their franchises, because they've had so many poor decisions in the past where they've gotten a ton of backlash. And I feel like Capcom is still in the fix-it phase. Definitely. I mean, they
they're
haven't
just kind of
completely...
carefully treading and watching their, not revealing all their cards just yet, because they're still scared of what screw-ups they made in the past.
Yeah, and it's still definitely haunting them. And you know what? As it should. It's their fucking fault.
Yep.
But the problem is that as any of these prestige big Japanese video game companies, you know, there's a lot of research that goes into the kind of products that they make. Maybe definitely at a detriment.
What are you
And
buying?
sometimes, and we talked about this a little bit with Square Enix, is that a lot of their decisions that are made are sort of like hamstrung by that philosophy, you know, or they'll put like a creative in charge of something just because said creative you know, had success with something once or a couple times or whatever. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's always going to be a lot of safeness with how Capcom does these remakes. Because if you look at maybe this is a hot take. I don't know.
Go for it.
But to me, RE2 Remake is fucking safe. It's too safe.
Really?
And and I granted, I only played Leon and Claire's. I only played Leon and Claire's. I don't know if it gets different on B routes. I don't know. So, correct me if I'm wrong. But
okay. I haven't played it yet, but that's a fascinating take for me, because yeah, there are some creative decisions. I watched a lot of reviews talking about RE2 Remake, and some of the main complaints for the game was that the atmosphere got screwed up a little bit because of the lack of music in the game, because it's quote-unquote realistic.
I see that.
Mr. X like ruined the game for some people because he was just so stressful to deal with, and he interrupts gameplay. And like if you're in the middle of a puzzle and Mr. X shows up, guess what? You got to deal with him first. So I don't know if I necessarily would call that safe. Just an odd decision at most. Fuck.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Because I guess the Mr. X being intrusive stuff is definitely but at the same time, I'm talking more so like the tone, the story beats, the way the characters are presented,
right?
The set piece, the level design, the things that they change, which is a lot, from fixed angle, feels I don't want to say generic, but it feels a little bit less memorable and involved than a lot of the fixed angle stuff. And maybe that's just by design. But at the same time, I don't know. So like, okay, I love the Mr. X stuff in theory, but I think in practice, the fact that you can pretty much deal with him the same singular way every time, it's kind of bunk. You know, like if it was new and different each time, it was like, I don't know, like actually terrifying instead of like reading an algorithm or something.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. I think you just hit the nail on the head right there.
So, but again, you know, I'm playing on normal. Maybe that shit's different on higher difficulties. I'm sure it is.
I mean, I'm sure that is, but that's not the point. The point is that you got through the game, you got through the base default experience of the game in a way that was quote-unquote intended. And what that does is it made the game less interesting as a result. And that means Capcom failed in that semblance, you know? And the fact
you
that...
know what, I wouldn't say it's a failure because I did like it. I did think it was cool. And it, for all intents and purposes, it did pad the game. I don't think in a bad way, but like, it did add some extra-ness to it, for sure. I did, yeah, true. I revoked my gamer status. So RE2 fanboys, what do you guys like? How do you guys feel about the game? I'm curious about that. RE2 remake.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's I mean, I understood what you meant.
And I don't want to spoil this for you either, Vince, because I know you just said that you haven't played
I've
it yet.
watched the entire game through, FYI, so don't worry. Yeah, I ended up watching because I was under the impression I'm never gonna play it. It's not gonna happen. If I get to it, I get to it. If not, I not. You know, whatever. All right, hang out. Hang out.
Yeah. So okay, Solstice, you bring up a point that I always have been talking about in pretty much every stream. The idea of developer intent, right? You know, like this thing is intentional, or this gameplay choice is intentional. This controversial gameplay choice is intentional. Like Mr. X is a really good example of this, right? You can argue intent all you want, right? But at the end of the day, you know, the gameplay does kind of speak for itself. You can take that intent, whether true or not, into context.
Right, fuck this.
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily, you know, ultimately change the way the thing is actually played. So, you know, like that's why I think developer intent isn't always super important, you know, and also you'll never know that for sure. You know, Kaiji Inafune, or KG, I don't know how to say his name, Inafune.
Kenji Inafune.
Yeah.
Anyways.
If he like, you know, maybe he actually wanted Mega Man X6 to suck ass, right? Like, and maybe that's what his intent. I'm just saying this just to be hypothetical.
Yeah.
But maybe, because I know this is not true, but maybe he wanted Mega Man X to suck ass, and then when the fan backlash about X6 sucking ass came hot, he was like, oh, this was definitely not intentional, right? Like revisionism. Like developer revisionism or creative revisionism. I see that a lot, actually, in not just in video games, but in music and art and film and in just art in general. So that's why, I don't know, the idea of developer intent is interesting. Vince, do you follow any kind of like developer insights on this series at all?
Just commentary on where the series is going and whatnot.
Yeah, or just like trivia facts about the design.
Sometimes if it's convenient and it falls into my lap, yeah, I'll check it out. Sure, why not? Why do you ask?
I'm just curious. Like, what's your take on this? Like, developer intent versus like actual gameplay or actual the game proper.
I think I 1 second. I'm kind of in a jam right now.
Yes, you are.
All right, I'm gonna have to use a flash grenade.
Godspeed.
Everyone, fuck off.
I love that though, because Leon is just impervious to it apparently. He's got like he's been to enough post-hardcore shows that, you know, the flashbang doesn't do anything for him.
to answer your question though, developer intent of RE4, I think the first thing they wanted to do was change the formula, because in the context of the series, they've been doing the same shit for like 15 years straight, okay? After a while, it starts to get a little bit stale. So they wanted to change the formula. They wanted to just do something new and exciting. And I can't be mad at that, okay? I don't know if that was actually what the devs wanted to, what their actual intentions were, but that does feel like what their direction was going for. It's kind of like with, I don't know, like Sonic Team or Sega or whatever, like always switching things up with Sonic. They want, or Mario, or with Nintendo with Mario. They never stick with exactly the same thing they did before. They're always trying to innovate. That's what this felt like. It felt like an innovation. They wanted to just go a different direction because they had been doing the fixed camera thing for like a decade at that point. So,
yeah,
a new, fresh perspective on a game franchise that had been sticking with the same formula for a long time might be profitable, and damn, hell yeah, it was. It ended up being a gamble, because imagine what the inside of Capcom must have been like. We have a formula, this works, we're gonna stick with this, we're not gonna change. And imagine if they did that instead. Imagine for the past 20 years, we just stuck with the same Resident Evil formula over and over again. It would have stagnated, would have gotten boring. Got to try something new. And that's the takeaway that I've taken with the direction RE4's decided to go.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting, and I think that there's a distinction too between like disruptive innovation in a series versus global.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, this game to me, as it's not very innovative as a whole. It's innovative in the series context.
Yes, I can
right?
agree with that.
And sometimes that is actually innovative. You know, it's like how do I say it? Almost like Zelda 2. We'll bring up the Zelda 2 example.
Sure.
Zelda 2 added RPG elements to the game that weren't unique, but that were unique in Zelda. And it's interesting, like, in sort of like when you look at it in hindsight, that the fact that Zelda never really did that again.
Right.
But, like that little change affected, like, if every Zelda game after Zelda 2 had been more like Zelda 2 and less like Zelda 1, it'd be a completely different fucking series. Mm-hmm. And so, like, yeah, I think oftentimes when a series has such a clear identity, to basically apply something mainstream or more uniform,
right,
is like its own set of innovation, mm-hmm. right? Because it opens up a lot of possibilities.
At its core, a complete product with new splashes of game mechanics that might have borrowed from something else. If it works, it works. All right? If it works, it works. But I do agree that a game's identity has to be rooted back to a base bone structure. In other words, these are concepts that we used before. We need to stick with these. These need to stay a staple in this franchise. Resident Evil's always had resource management. Resident Evil's always had, monsters. Resident Evil's always had, herbs, except some puzzles here and there. You take those away, it's not Resident Evil anymore. And Resident Evil 4 definitely does gravitate away from some of those core templates to a degree. 100% it does with the puzzles. The game's not as scary, so I can understand why haters, or for lack of a better term, or just people who just weren't into it the way others were, got spooked away. A little bit of humor right there.
Yeah. No pun intended. Yeah. No, I feel I think that's 100% on point.
Yeah.
And Seth said that this is the first truly memorable third-person shooter for him, and I think that's true of a lot of people, man. I think
it was for me. It was for me.
Yeah, even you. Yeah. You touched on it too, where you were talking about the game's influence and blah blah blah. And even if like let's just say for the sake of argument that the game is not very good,
Okay.
You can't deny the influence,
Yep.
right? Like, you know, even if you're like, oh, this is a dog-ass video game, so many video games that followed, including the series Resident Evil, were greatly affected by this. And hey, Bluesy, how's it going?
Can you name a game that had quote unquote borrowed Resident Evil 4 mechanics and ended up being a good game? Because I can't off the top of my head.
Oh man, jeez, that's a good question. There are a lot of like generic shooters that I'm sure probably were better off with RE4 elements because they were kind of just shitty in essence. That's a good question. If anyone has an answer to that, please.
Because I can't think of anything. Like, I can name examples of games that were just kind of okay that 100% borrowed from RE4, like Gears of War, the over-the-shoulder, position, 100% borrowed from it. But I didn't find Gears of War to be very memorable, other than making fun of it.
I think Gears of War, yeah, I would say Gears of War definitely took a lot from this. You know, my thing with Gears of War is that, like, that to me, that is the one of the ugliest games I've ever played. Because it's like, there's deliberate art design in that game, and it's still, like, it just feels so creatively bankrolled. I don't know. Actually playing it is kind of cool. Like, I like the multiplayer a lot. It's very skill intensive at a high level. But like the actual game itself, no, missed me with it completely.
Yeah, that's one thing that I really didn't like. One influence I did not like that RE4 kind of set the precedent for a while was the goddamn brown and gray tone and color spectrum on every single third-person shooter for like 10 years. All right? God, that's one thing I'm very excited for RE4 Remake is they have color in their games. I see blue, I see red, I see orange. It's exciting. It's so pretty. I want more of that.
Gears of War has big Rob Liefeld energy. Yeah,
I don't know what that is. What's Rob Liefeld?
So he was like the '90s comic artist, big arms, disproportionate body sizes, way too muscular, lots of spikes and belts and a lot of stuff. When you think like cheesy 90s comics, it's probably Rob Liefeld.
Oh, okay. So he's got kind of that tough guy noir bullshit thing going on.
Yeah, sort of like Rob Liefeld, sorry. Why am I saying Field? I don't fucking know.
It's okay. I understood what you said. We communicated.
Thank you. The creator of belts and pouches on Comic Book Heroes. Yeah, that's true. I mean, for better, like, there are some good examples. I like the shitty 90s Cable design, personally, but, like, every fucking comic book character having Rob Liefeld designs, ugh. I love Cable, but Cable. Yeah, exactly. Colossal feet. Yep. Damn, RE4 really is Rob Liefeld. Wow.
Ah, crap. Come on. I'm gonna have to start using bullets. Come on, I just want one. Just one. Come on, you fuck. All right. Fish. I'm fishing like an American right now. All right, two's plenty. That'll do for now. This is gonna take up way too much space. So I have the opposite problem of the average, I guess, newbie player, RE4 player, is that I start running out of space. Because I'm too good at the game. I don't get hit enough.
I don't know, man. You did get a game over before the first save point.
Hey, Chainsaw Man is a one-hit kill mechanic. Slips are gonna happen, okay? Slips happen. I have no shame in that beheading. It happens.
Dude, so I fucking okay. I'm like really bad at Resident Evil games. Like
Okay.
like RE2 remake, I struggled with for no reason. But that being said, when I first played this game, like all the way through, because like I said, I rented it on GameCube. I didn't get super far into it. I maybe got past the village. I don't know. But when I got it on Wii, I fucking demolished this game. The only game over
I know exactly what to say, but go on.
Yeah, I mean, granted, it's the easy mode, right? But like, The only game overs I got on the Wii version were from QTEs.
Oh god.
Which I got a lot of actually.
So I actually
fucking
have.
hate QTEs.
They're terrible. We can have an entire segment just shitting on QTEs in a second, but I can actually answer why you just demolished RE4 on the Wii. It's the Wiimote. It's the
Wii.
The
They
Wii
even
remote
tried
controls.
to balance the game. Yeah, because it's like they made enemies take more hits to kill. Like you can't just head pop somebody with one headshot anymore. But it's still like you still absolutely destroy stuff because
Just
I could be wrong.
the greater aim just makes the game way easier to just deal with everything because the game mechanics in RE4 are very dependent on your competency to activate stuns. Okay, so unlike zombies in Resident Evil, throughout the series. You can actually stun lock Ganados. If you hit them in the head, they get stunned. If you hit them in the chest, they'll pause for a moment. But the point is that the big ones that are really useful are the leg shots and the head shots. And if you're stressed out by the game, you're not familiar with the controls very well, and the first time you play it, and you're like dealing with Leon's shaky hand, it's going to be kind of a lot to deal with. Because okay, look, I'm just holding the controller right now. Okay. Look at Leon's aim. He looks like he just got finished drinking 5 cups of coffee, okay?
Yep.
This is deliberate. Okay? The reason why it's like this is specifically to combat the game mechanics or tools that are given to you in the game to activate those stun locks. So if you are having trouble activating stun locks, you're going to get stressed out. You're going to have less opportunities to deal with these stressors the game is imposing on you. Now imagine if you're a god of death that has perfect aim and can activate those stuns over and over again on a whim whenever you want. The game's not going to be very hard anymore. Okay?
Yeah, oh yeah, that's why the Wii version is the little Timmy version.
Yeah.
And I feel like that fits the Wii in general, but wait, hold on. So this is the PC version. Are you playing with a mouse and a keyboard, or are you playing with
on a controller?
Controller?
I'm playing on a controller.
But you can use a mouse and keyboard, right?
I don't think so. I don't. For the record, I don't know how to play on a mouse and keyboard. I am a controller.
Oh, rip, bro. Rip. Well, has anyone played this game on PC with mouse and keyboard? Oh, only with mods? Okay.
Okay, yeah, no, as I understand, RE4 does not have the option to play on a keyboard and mouse. And I think this goes back again to, player intent. Whoa. Did I miss something?
All I'm saying is I played Doom Eternal on Nightmare on console, and I played it on PC, and it is infinitely easier on PC. I can't even fucking tell you how much easier it is.
Yeah, it goes back to just control. Just goes back to control, being able to competently aim everything. The thing is like this goes back to player intent. This the control or game developer intent. And the tone of horror that the game dev wants you to feel. Sometimes having trouble dealing with what's going on the screen translates to how the game feels. So if you're struggling with the enemy and they're spooky scary, guess what? That translates to the player too. It makes you feel helpless. It makes you feel scared. If you are a god of death that has perfect aim and you can just blast enemies over and over again with perfect precision, it's not going to be very scary. And that's just a natural consequence of Resident Evil 4. Because the controls are so good, the game feels good to play and you become more competent as a player. So that position of helplessness that horror games usually impose on you is no longer there because you are Secret Agent Leon who dodges, who jumps through lasers and windows and blasts and gets headshots left and right. You know?
There's a religious cult group involved. They're called
I missed out on the chainsaw controller back in the day.
I never got to use that. That's very silly.
I had an
I
unexpected
should have done it.
run-in with the big
But here's a
cheese of this
question:
film.
is it possible
okay, right?
to have a game where you are Secret Agent Leon
Uh-huh.
and still retain pure horror? Like, do you think that's possible?
I
in
guess
some
that's
way?
the question that we're kind of like juggling right now with Resident Evil 4 Remake, aren't we? Because that's why I brought up player control as the initial question of our discussion, because how competently you can control Leon and how many powers you have access to. Remember I mentioned stun locking, melee attacks, etc., etc. If you have access to stuff like that, the game inherently will be less scary. It just will be, because you have more agency over what the enemy does to you. Okay?
Yeah.
So if you don't have those things, if you have less tools to deal with enemies, that's more stressors on you to deal with what they do to you. So ultimately what it comes down to is, if you want to be badass secret agent Leon, it's inherently contradictory to the goal of making the game scarier. Because the more competent the character is, the more competent the player is, the less scary the game becomes.
So okay, I definitely agree with that in theory.
Uh-huh.
But, I think there's a very important game that we talked about already that kind of proves that point wrong.
Okay.
And it's Resident Evil 1. Because you are secret agent Jill or Chris at the end of that game.
Sort of, but this goes back to like timing and tone and pacing, because at the very beginning of the game, that's definitely not the case. And the thing is with Resident Evil is that you want to start the game on a slow burn, right? But at the end of the game, the escalation continues to rise higher and higher, and that's no longer the game dev's intent anymore. It's not to scare you, it's to empower you.
Right, exactly, yeah. And so, like, okay, my answer to this is...
Okay.
I think there is a possibility that you can be Secret Agent Leon and retain horror aspects, but the game things have to be segmented or funneled, right? Like, you'd have to have a segment where you're Secret Agent Leon and before you go back to a more gimped or a less player control environment. Or maybe there's like specific enemies that are no problem at all, and then they're not super common, but you have moments where you can just blast, right?
Right.
And I do think that Resident Evil has that dynamic a little bit, but I'm talking like on a very deliberate, like macro level, it being part of the entirety of game design.
Sure.
But yeah, no, that's a really interesting topic. I think I'm really curious to see as like how future games in this series and beyond can deal with that.
I think to piggyback what you just mentioned right there, segments of where you're like you feel more helpless like versus this type of opponent. There is a degree of that already in the game. It's called Dr. Salvador. So Dr. So more monsters like Dr. Salvador, because Dr. Salvador is very hard to stun. All right, he just mows right through your standard. He'll walk right through standard bullets. More monsters like the Regenerator would be really interesting. Would be really interesting for Resident Evil 4. I want more stuff like that. Ah, shit.
So you want more Mr. X? Because I feel like Speaking of which,
I'm assuming you have some agency against him. Yes, actually, yes, that'd be cool.
Yeah, and you have a ton of agency over Mr. X. It just, I get like on a casual level it being very intrusive, and there, I would say even like for more hardcore players, there is an element of exploitation to dealing with them.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, even Tony was saying in chat, he was saying that you could zip through walls, or you can make him zip through walls if you keep going in.
That's
inside
funny.
And out of doors, which I didn't know that actually. That's super helpful.
That's funny.
So so when I played RE2 Remake, I played it when my mother-in-law was here, and she played RE2 back in the day, and I was like, I hadn't played RE2 Remake yet. I was like, oh, we got on the subject of Resident Evil somehow, and I was like, oh, I have the remake. I'll play that. And so I played through it in like one sitting because that game is super short with Leon.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like a funny experience, like seeing somebody who hasn't someone who hasn't like seen a Resident Evil video game in like, I don't know, 20 years, see RE2 Remake and be like, oh, is this what I remember? Is this the game that I remember? Did I misremember? Is there a Mandela effect? Like, I remember this specific enemy that you just killed. This scared the shit out of me for some reason when I played this, because I just like didn't see her. So this is very ingrained in my mind.
Oh no, you have a post-traumatic stress disorder like situation. Like, oh god, my childhood.
Oh my god, six. Yeah, this is how I fucked my mother-in-law, basically, through Resident Evil 2.
Take that sentence out of context. Go ahead.
Oh my god, my girlfriend's gonna hear this and be like, I'm gonna get a Joseph from the other room.
Oh.
It's for the bit. It's not serious. I don't want to fuck my mother-in-law. That's weird. Thank you, Six, for bringing this into full chaos. Where would we be without you?
Oh my god. But no, go on. RE2 Remake perspective.
That's all I got. That's all I really got to say. Honestly.
No, I need to play it eventually. I do want to play it. I'm just saving it for a Halloween stream because I've never played it before, and even though I kind of have a vague idea of what to expect, watching a game and playing it are two totally different experiences. I'm sorry.
Especially
you can spoil the shit out of a game all you want. If you don't actually experience it yourself, it's still gonna get you. All right? It's still gonna get you. And RE2 Remake looks spooky scary to me. I don't know what to expect.
It is, yeah.
The mechanics are new to me. It's weird. I'm not sure what to expect, and I'm excited. As I've gotten older, I've gotten a little bit more comfortable with playing horror games. Maybe I grew up into it. I'm not sure. Man, y'all got way too much HP.
Does this use the Wii version's balancing?
No, this is GameCube. This is GameCube. The original grow hair on your chest GameCube version of the game.
I love how that's like that descriptor in the same sentence as GameCube game is really funny to me for some reason. I don't know why.
That's because GameCube's kind of implied to be baby's first video game console, just a little bit.
Yeah. And there was also those memes back in the day about, GameCube being like the bro console. Like, bro, we play some GameCube.
Oh, for real? Huh.
Yeah, it was it Derek Comedy?
Yes, I know exactly what you're about to say. I'm not gonna say the full title because we're on Twitch, but bro, documentary, right?
Yeah.
I know exactly. Yeah, let's go to my place and play some GameCube, bro.
Yeah, exactly. That was a big meme in like World of Warcraft communities back then. And I was poisoned with it for a while, but. I don't know, man. This might be like a hot take, but I think GameCube is greater than or equal to the PS2.
Wow.
I'm just saying.
That is indeed a hot take.
Did the PS2 have like per capita better games? Yeah, probably. Did it do more for the landscape and technology? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But listen, GameCube, you absolutely matter. You absolutely matter.
You matter.
You fucking matter. If for a second you think that you don't matter, GameCube, that's true. Shu, you know what, Shu? I'll give you that. Not a big Prime 2 fan, but it's on the GameCube.
No, the GameCube did have a lot of like really great hits that I still think about to this day. Metroid Prime, Resident Evil 1 Remake, coincidentally, Super Smash Bros. Melee. Resident Evil 4 for a little while. The GameCube was throwing some bombs. It had a lot of good games on it.
Had a little game. It was a port. It was a little game though. You know, just a little game called Phantasy Star Online.
I never played it. That was outside of my
games ever made.
That was outside of my demographic. I never played that one. I have a friend of mine who's super into those kind of like games. What genre is that called again? Like MMORPG?
That would be like an MMO, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's like Diablo. The gameplay loop is like exactly like Diablo. Kill same bosses over and over again, get loot. Slightly harder difficulty.
That's
numbers
interesting
go
to
up.
me. That doesn't really have much appeal to me personally, but I'm glad people have that. I guess the closest I have to some kind of experience like that, which is also a Capcom IP, is Monster Hunter. I am a huge Monster Hunter fan.
Hey.
And that's got a very similar kind of gameplay loop at the end game where you're just fighting the same things over and over again. So I guess I'm a little bit of I can understand MMO appeal.
Yeah, I mean, Monster Hunter isn't too far off from the Diablo or PSO gameplay loop. The gameplay styles are vastly different, mechanics are vastly different, the pace is different, but like the concept of like, oh, I need to farm this to get, like some scales is pretty much the same thing as having to do Bale runs or having to do Forest 2 or something, like similar.
I guess we are going off. We are going veering off a little bit off topic as far as Resident Evil goes, but I do get worried about the future of like MMORPGs or other games that understand that there are predatory practices that they can take advantage of to like nickel and dime players. It's funny you brought up Diablo earlier. Diablo, what was it, Immortal or whatever the fuck it's called, has a lot of anti-consumer practices that are in the game, and it's pretty much killed the game. And
I mean, it's by a shell of a company too. That definitely doesn't help.
Oh yeah. Blizzard's kind of lost its way, hasn't it?
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. I will not play a Blizzard game again.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
People challenge me. They're like, "Oh, when Diablo 2 remake comes out, you're gonna play that?" I'm like, "Nope," and I won't. So
good for you. Good for you.
I won't play Diablo 4. I won't play. I would. You know what? I'd play StarCraft 3. Fuck it. StarCraft 3 would get me. I don't even care. That's the one.
You gotta pick and choose your battles, right? Like I get it. Like game,
Right.
like player, like customer integrity. It's just like anything else in life. You can't apply perfectionist fallacy. You gotta let some things slide.
Well, there's no ethical consumption in late stage capitalism, right?
Fine.
There's no ethical consumption in late stage capitalism, but I feel like that is also contextual, right? Like you can't be like, oh well, there's no ethical consumption. Fuck it, I'm gonna support rapists and like anti-LGBTQ people and companies. Oh, I'm gonna.
Right.
There's no ethical consumption in late stage capitalism,
that
so I'm
goes
gonna buy
into-
Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, that goes into like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You're missing the greater point. The point is that you can make informed decisions on what you choose to buy and what you choose to support. And in the context of Capcom makes incredible games. Okay, let me just level with you. They make Resident Evil 4, one of the greatest games of all time. But they also did a lot of weird, fucked up shit too. They've done a lot of anti-consumer decisions on their games with Street Fighter versus Tekken. Monster Hunter Rise had a lot of day one DLC practices.
Yeah.
The point is that they're not perfect. They've made some bad decisions, and that's the reason why they're so cautious on what they decide to show with RE4 Remake. But if the game is good, they make a good product, and they don't screw over players with anti-consumer practices, I'll support the project. I'll support the game. I want to buy good things. I want to buy good games. I want to be there for that. I just won't support the bad ones.
Yeah, totally. I do make exceptions to that rule,
right?
Time after time. I think I said I would do it for StarCraft 2 or StarCraft 3. But hey, you know what? I'll bring this full circle. Think of what this and to also segue from our GameCube discussion. Remember, this game was originally released as an only for GameCube Nintendo exclusive.
Right, and that got rejected real fucking fast.
Yeah. Because when did it come out on PS2? Like a year or two after?
I want to say 2 years later, because I actually remember like yesterday when I was on GameFAQs forums. The controversy behind Resident Evil 4 being ported to the PlayStation 2. We should have done that. They made a promise.
Remember those days. Yeah, I remember those days. Yeah.
Thank you.
And you know what, man? That was at the tail end of my Nintendo fanboyism when I was an unabashed Nintendo fanboy.
Yeah.
I was you know what? Actually, I think Wind Waker was the first time I fully truly questioned Nintendo.
Really? Wait. What's the TLDR of your thoughts on Wind Waker? Just out of
It's a
curiosity.
good game. It's a good game, full of problems.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
we'll go
fair.
with that, yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. It's not perfect, but Wind Waker, just for the record, is my favorite Legend of Zelda game. I'm not gonna like attack you for not liking it, but I can acknowledge there are problems with it. But go on.
I think it's just the little things. I don't think there's too many examples of games where little things just. It's death by 1,000 cuts.
Okay.
For Wind Waker for me. Combat's really good. I love the story. That's such a cool fucking concept, man.
Yeah.
Here's the hot take though. Wind Waker shits all over Majora's Mask. Fuck Majora's Mask. Fuck Majora's Mask.
Tell them how you really feel. Tell them how you really feel.
Fuck that game. Anyway, GameCube era. No, I think it's interesting because, like, you know, designing. Okay, part of the reason why I think this game lost its exclusivity is that it did so well, and GameCube was struggling. It was struggling. So I think being able to be like, oh hey, let's bring this to as many more people as we can, because the PS2 was.
We gotta make that money, Joey.
We gotta make the fucking money.
We gotta make the fucking money, Joey.
We gotta bring Resident Evil 4 to PS2. You know, the 2 and the 4, it's divisible. The GameCube doesn't even have a fucking number. You know, come on.
Exactly. I mean, that's what it comes. It's always going to come back to that, though. It's just like they want greater profit, and why wouldn't they? And it worked out because fucking RE4 is sold like gangbusters, man. Good for them. Mm-hmm. So I get it. It's like sometimes integrity is gonna get thrown out the window for profit. I understand that. It's just unfortunate.
Okay, I'm sorry to do this. I didn't want to derail anything, but I do have to touch on one thing about my Majora's Mask take before I get fucking crucified.
Please, I'm curious now.
So I love Majora's Mask's tone. I think
Okay.
Majora's Mask like has some of the. Actually, I'll just say it has the best lore in the series because it's really interesting.
Okay.
Actually playing that game sucks. Worst dungeon design in the series, worst combat in this. You know what? The DS games exist. Forget I said that. Some of the worst combat in the series. I fucking hate the time system, not because it's limited or timed, but because it's needlessly intrusive.
Right.
The game is stretched out by that mechanic. What else? There's 4 dungeons. Fuck Majora's Mask. It feels like it's made by a B team, and it definitely is.
Do you know the history of RE4 Majora's Mask like game development time? Are you familiar with that?
Oh
at all?
yeah, and the turnaround time is insane because and they
1 year.
reused a lot of
1 year.
Yep. Actually, I think it's less. I think it was 9 months.
Fuck.
Which is actually fucking
They
wild.
they put that game together from the cutting room floor.
Yeah, and I you know what? For what it is, I think that's impressive. Because I do like. Again, in a vacuum, it's a fine game. It's fine. I would just so.
Again, it's Leon.
There's more than 4. Okay, what? 5 dungeons plus like a couple little things. 4 shitty dungeons that all feel like the worst dungeon in Ocarina of Time. And I'm not like even an Ocarina of Time apologist because I think Ocarina of Time is like kind of just
overrated.
Ocarina of just fine is how I would describe it.
It's been like a decade since I've last played the game. The last time I tried it was on the GameCube when I was like in my 20s, and I quit before leaving Kokiri Village. I just couldn't do it. Like I'm sure it was a great game at its time, but it's just the lack of modern accommodations that I'm very spoiled by. Just I couldn't play it. Like bad camera controls. The game doesn't look great. Like the game controls are kind of janky. The gameplay itself, like a la Aaron Hansen's video criticizing Ocarina of Time, I actually agree with him on a lot of those criticisms. It just didn't age well. It's a product of its time. It either needs to be updated or, I don't know, just nostalgia's only going to carry you so far.
I think a lot of it, too, was in response to what Sony was doing at the time, because Sony, like, took the reins of the consoles market then, and they were, like, really defining a lot of what video games could be. and they were cultivating their own audience, which is like a little bit older than Nintendo was trying to do. It's like they filled in the void that Sega left behind almost. It just that they kind of were a lot more sensible about sensible rather, about their decisions. So it's interesting. I bring that up. I'll try to segue this into here because, again, RE4 allowed them to, with a console where they can experiment a little bit more. And if RE4 fucking ate shit and sucked and was RE6, then the loss wouldn't have been as great.
Right.
Because I'd be willing to bet that the resources that went into this game are probably less than a lot of people think. I could be wrong, but that's what I think. Also, I'm really interested as to why Capcom. I don't actually know the answer to this, but why Capcom was so focused on Nintendo titles during this time. I know that they had that like a contract or whatever for exclusives because they did like Project Number 3, which is like a forgotten Filoni like DMC like. It's actually an okay game.
I don't remember that one personally.
Beautiful Joe, RE1, all the RE ports.
Right.
But yeah, if somebody wants to illuminate me in this, please, if you have the knowledge, drop the tomes. Jorah's best plan. Bro, okay, in my old age, Zelda's kind of just fine. Like, Link to the Past, great game. LOZ, great game. Breath of the Wild's really good, but like, I don't know. There's so many.
I don't know. Like, it's kind of like, when you were a kid, you thought Adam Sandler movies were funny. That's
yes, and now fuck Adam Sandler. While we're on that subject, fuck Adam Sandler.
But that's my point. That's my point. Is like a lot of these games that you grew up with and had very fond memories of, you go back and play and you realize they're either just very okay or they just straight up suck. I'm sorry, but a lot of the games that you played as a kid, your game taste, your taste as a gamer when you're a kid is fucking dog shit. It just is. I'm sorry.
Well, to be fair, it was so much more like I feel like people back in the day, at least people who were around my age, and Vince, I'm guessing you're probably around my age.
I'm in my 30s. We're the same age demographic.
Okay, cool. So like, whoa, Snake, hello.
I already knew it was there.
I forgot about that.
I didn't.
But I feel like people in our generation kind of stayed in a very specific lane more so than now, and part of that was just market.
What do you mean? What do you mean by stay in our lane? Like
the Nintendo kids. We were a Nintendo household, or we were a Sega.
Right. Okay, I see what you're saying now. Okay.
And so it was just harder to branch out because games were there was no like real price regulations back then. So a lot of stuff was really expensive when it shouldn't have been. A lot of really cheap shit was really expensive, and a lot of expensive shit was really cheap. Or stuff that should have been expensive was really cheap.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. Because like the Sega Saturn was running like $400. It was like something insane, right?
Yeah, bro, it was nuts. And I remember when the Sega CD came out, I was like 5, I was even younger. But I got it when I was like 6 because that shit got marked down to like $100 or something even cheaper.
Wow.
Because the Genesis was being sold less than the Super Nintendo because Sega wanted to take probably what was a loss to capitalize on the market and to take advantage of that like install base, right? So they probably took a loss on some consoles while they made up for it in software, or just again install base. So yeah, like all the prices and stuff were just kind of like wacky back then, and like video games weren't as big of a thing then. So like,
as a result, I think what you're saying, what I'm hearing you say right now is as a result of the price, those high price fluctuations, whether they were warranted or not, most of them weren't. That ended up kind of pushing younger players more towards the less expensive games, which as a result also reduced the amount of options we could try. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, and also I feel like it affected perception because, like, a lot of American consumerism, actually not a lot of it,
Captain
most
Howdy.
of it, is inherently tribal.
Yeah.
You know, and especially back then where the
fucking
consumer
console
boom
wars.
of the 90s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fucking
console wars, the consumer boom of the 90s, and I feel like I swear this is topical because I'm affected. I'm trying to say this how it relates to our perception of older games.
Right.
Because I feel like that tribalism made us a little bit more willing to forgive certain shortcomings in games just because they were on a specific
100%. And that still happens to this day. God, fanboys have tunnel vision like I've never seen before. Like, it's wild how they don't see what I see when it comes to like valid criticisms on a game shortcoming. I could talk about that all day, but go on. I don't want to break your flow.
No, it's like I think Resident Evil 4 is a really good example. I think a lot of people played this game at a very formative time in their lives. And you know, I see a lot of like positive criticism or positive acclaim for this game that's very shallow. That's just like, oh well, like it's cool because it's like you got a gun and you know you shoot stuff. It's real sick. There's a lot of just superficial discourse on this game, and even Resident Evil even Resident Evil 8, I see that a lot about like. And I feel like a game like this, the game or series like this, are just so good for analytical discussion. They're very dense, and there's a lot to say about level design and game design with these games. So to see stuff like, oh, it's spooky, you know, I like it. You got guns, it's my favorite game because you could shoot zombies more.
Yeah, no,
like that.
no, 100% that does happen though. Where like the nostalgia or fond feelings that you had from something from your past. Like guess on the subject of Resident Evil 4, I grew up playing this, so my ability to be quote-unquote objective in video game analysis is not going to be as good because I just have favorable emotions towards the game. It's just inherent. I can't help it. Now that said, 100% I can acknowledge problems with it. I'm not in that deep. I can criticize this game, and there are problems with it. 100%.
Right, and so, okay, one thing I do see, and I'm not saying this is true of you at all, but one thing I do see a lot is, like, people trying to weigh objectivity, or trying to use objectivity as, like, an excuse.
Okay.
Right? So, like, one thing I see a lot is, like, see this on Twitter really often. The people who are like, no console wars, we play games, not boxes, when they very fucking clearly have a very specific nuanced bias. And like, it's like trying to say something critical just for the sake of something critical, just so you can like seem objective, is just as fucking superficial as being like, fuck Nintendo because they make games for kids. Or
you have to be willing to admit that you do have bias. That's just comes with being familiar with any particular title or franchise that you like. You're gonna have bias. You just are.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with like acknowledging that, right? Like, I mean, obviously you wanna like, you know, try to like see beyond that or work beyond that, right? Like, one of my favorite Final Fantasy game is 6, right? And a big part of that is because it was very formative for me. But at the same time, like, you know, I recognize that might be part of it, but I put a lot of effort into like trying to weigh my own subjective experience with, Ben Shapiro facts, right? You know, like, but that being said, like, at the end, there's another flavor to that too, and it's like, it's also kind of corny to like try to dunk on things that you love just because you think it might give you critical clout or something, and that's something else I see. But yeah, I mean, like, there's always gonna be, especially video games are just such a fucking unbelievably like subjective experience, like all art, but like I would say more than a lot of other mediums, but. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with just being like, yeah, I love Resident Evil 4 because I played it a lot as a kid, and it fucking rules, man. Like, and I didn't mean to sound like I was like invalidating anybody who was like, oh, I like Resident Evil 8 just because it's spooky. That like, you know, like, don't think being able to talk about something at a deeper level makes you a deeper person, for sure. I don't mean to imply that. But just discourse in general. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get that. But that's kind of the whole point, though. Is like you want to be able to bounce off other perspectives. You don't want to completely deny what someone else has to say on a subject, because there's always going to be an insight that they have that you won't.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, even on this stream, I'm seeing a lot of I really like interacting with RE4 discourse, even though I'm not like super passionate about it myself, because I think it's really interesting to see these opinions and take a shot every time I say interesting. But it is cool to see to see RE4 haters and then see RE4 lovers and ship them, basically.
Now kiss.
Now kiss. Yeah, now kiss.
Ah, shit.
Ocarina of Time people saying it's amazing.
Congratulations, I finally get to use a healing item.
There you go, yeah. Yeah, once you start getting more health, it's just like, holy shit.
What do I do with all this? I gotta start getting hit on purpose.
Saving
Oh
ammo.
no, that was not on
there
purpose!
There it is.
Shit, I guess I'll use an egg. Alright.
I love shooting shit out of the air. That's so satisfying to me.
It took
it makes
a
you
lot.
feel like a god.
It took a lot of practice to kind of develop an intuition to do that right. It's actually not as hard as, it's actually not as, you gotta be super elite gamer to pull off. It's not that bad, actually. Basically what I do is I aim in the general direction of where the axe is flying, and then there's a timing to when the enemy will throw the axe. And I basically just learn the timing of when the enemy throws the axe, and I just shoot based off of that timing. I'm not actually aiming very precisely. The window to shoot the axe out of the air is actually quite generous. So,
yeah, the hitbox on it is enormous.
Yeah, no, it's big. It's like my spacing is not super precise. I just know the timing. So
you know, speaking, you said the word spacing, and it triggered something in me, and it's like, so, because Capcom's, I think, most influential game to the developers themselves, and I could be wrong, to me has always been Street Fighter.
Yeah.
It's like the Mario of Capcom, right? And I feel like you start to, I think when Capcom really hits its stride is when it starts to feel sort of like a fighting game. Like the games start to feel like a fighting game.
That's a great insight. That didn't even occur to me to describe it like that, actually.
Like, dude, think of sorry, I don't mean to bring up RE2 Remake again, but think of that game. Like, if you watch a speedrun of that game, it's the spacing people have to do, the frame data. Like, you count frames on how long it takes to open doors, or Mr. X shit.
Yeah.
Like it's sick. I think that there's definitely a deliberate game design philosophy at Capcom. I would say I would be willing to bet on.
It's that precision, that consistency is the word I'm looking for here. Like, you can rely on this mechanic to work as intended. Oh hell yeah! I just got a golden egg. I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna hold on to you forever. You're gonna be literally the last thing I use ever. These are very nice. It only takes up one space and it's a full heal. This is the best item in the game. But no, that's actually a great insight there. It never would occur to me to describe I guess Resident Evil 4 like a fighting game. But 100% that's relevant, because the way I play the game, like the way I input and do moves and pull up precise shots, the mechanics of the game are so reliable and so consistent. It does feel like I'm inputting movements into a fighting game pad.
Yeah, because the scale of RE4 aiming is so much smaller than a mouse and keyboard FPS game or a Twitch shooter.
Yeah.
And it's more about macros, or how do I say
Shit.
keystrokes than
Forgot
it is
about that
free aiming. What hit you?
A snake. I forgot there was a snake in that box.
Snake.
Fucker.
It's like a raging demon input. Yeah, true.
Oh shit, there's a zombie coming! Quarter circle forward! Fuck!
Monster Hunter is very much to me like high level or like G rank.
Oh yeah.
Monster Hunter stuff. It definitely has that fighting game flow to it.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
I main hammer, dual blades, and gun lance. You gotta be like, every single weapon in Monster Hunter has like this zen-like discipline that you need to apply in order to really truly master it. And that's another big reason why I like Monster Hunter so much. I mean, I could talk about that. Like, I got to do a Monster Hunter stream with you. That'll be a lot of fun to talk about.
I think I told you this on another stream, but the last Monster Hunter game I really put time into was Try. And
Never
that
played it.
Was so I did everything in like I did literally every single hunt in Try with solo greatsword.
Nice.
And
you're a greatsword main. Look at you.
Not anymore. That's the old me, Vince. I've now I do switch axe and charge blade.
Okay. No. Wow, man. You go after the rough weapons. I'm a big dum-dum. Like,
dude, gun lance is big brain. What are you talking about?
No. So gun lance, like, okay. So what I mean by dum-dum is like what I'm good at in gaming is timing and spacing. All right, that's what I'm good at. Okay. If I play a fighting game, I always go for the heavies because that's their whole shtick: timing and spacing. So. With Hammer, it's all about getting headshots, so spacing, of course, you have to understand the monster's moveset. But this also applies to Gun Lance, too. So Gun Lance, even though the moveset's relatively simple to pull off, the inputs are not terribly complicated, the timing you need to understand very intimately in order to do well. That's what I do good. That's what I'm good at. But if you want me to do quarter circle forward, remember to press this button at this time, in this order, I'm not going to remember that. Charge blade is big brain. I'm not gonna be able to do that.
Oh, charge blade is big brain. That's why like I don't stick with Monster Hunter games that much anymore because like I'll play that and I'll be like, okay, I need to improve, and then I just like I make like notes on how to do it and I just never do it.
Yeah,
but, like,
it's a tremendous time sink.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like one question I guess I want to ask since we're on the subject of like we were talking about MMOs earlier. Like, how much time do you think is like necessary to invest in like an MMO style game like Monster Hunter? Because I got completely enveloped by Monster Hunter World and Iceborne. I think I sunk easily 2,000 hours into that game. I'm still playing it occasionally.
And someone in our Discord actually, she got the platinum to that game.
Wow.
Solo. And like the last trophy that she said that she got was the do something co-op or the co-op flare, which is hilarious to me, and like super impressive. Just like that's just wild. But man, so okay, that's a really good question, and I think the only way I can answer it is like it depends on what you want to get out of it.
Yeah.
Like it really does. It depends on what you want. Like, do you want to get really good at it? Do you want to just see the content? Do you want to play with other people? Like what is the goal? And I think like it varies per answer. I think.
That's fair. That's fair. Because like I kind of lean more completionist style. Like when I get into a game, I become obsessed with it. Like I have to suck the marrow out of the bones. I need to do everything. And the problem with that kind of attitude being applied to a MMO RPG style game is that can take over your life.
Yeah.
And I get worried about that with some games and the predatory practices that we discussed earlier, and putting a paywall behind certain practices like that. And not only do I get worried about the social implications, but I also get worried about game developers losing their way and making absolute profit a priority over just making a good product. Because that's what killed Diablo Immortal.
Yeah, and that Blizzard's like AI designed game development tactics also. Yeah. But I'm actually worried about that with RE4 to some extent too, because Capcom has been pretty bad about some of their TLC practices.
Yeah.
And I hope that... I mean, I don't know if it's like that
shit.
Village. Oh, rip. Oh, no.
That wasn't supposed to happen! RE Village.
Yeah, I haven't... I haven't played RE Village apart from the demo yet, so I can't tell you if there's any DLC bullshit. But that's always a concern for any big name dev to me. It's like what the DLC is going to be like. especially Sega and Atlas.
No, because that happened with, on the subject of RE, did you play Resident Evil 3 Remake?
No, I haven't played that.
Yeah,
Apart from the demo.
I didn't touch it because, one, I didn't like the direction that that Capcom went with their, like, the like, I guess the attitude and tone of the game and the way that it went. I didn't care for that personally, and also, like, man, I'm getting my ass whipped right now. I also didn't care for. Oh, this might be it.
No, I believe.
Okay. I just didn't care for, like, the cut content out of the game too. Like, my understanding is that RE3 Remake is not super faithful to the original game's, storyline and content. Like they cut out the tower section. I never played RE3, but my understanding is that the tower section is infamous. Like there's that's like one of the best parts of the game. They just cut it out, and I'm just wondering why would they do that other than to just save time and then still have the nerve to sell the game at $60, you know?
Yeah.
So you have a shorter game with less product, and you're still charging $60. That just comes off as like a scam.
Right, and I think there's a couple reasons for it, which all ultimately tie into, again, late stage capitalism. But
fuck.
Oh shit! No, you're fine.
I stopped right on time. Late stage capitalism. Here we go. Fun subject.
There's two elements, two major elements of this. I think one was that so they had just made RE2 Remake.
Okay.
And they had all those assets and the design team and whatever. Maybe RE2 finished development early, and so they wanted to then fill in the gaps, right?
Right.
So like they wanted to make like every Resident Evil game be accessible on like a modern console in some way.
Yes.
And it just made sense, and it was very economical for them to remake RE3 with what they were doing with RE2.
Oh yeah, they did make a multiplayer in the RE3 remake, and nobody fucking played it, right?
Yeah.
I completely forgot about that.
And it's like, I mean, I feel like they should have learned a long time ago that like I don't think multiplayer is really the reason why too many people play Resident Evil. I don't know. I could be wrong.
It's not. I mean, I don't think of Resident Evil as a multiplayer game. That's a strange decision. I mean, it could work, maybe.
Except for RE5, which is elevated immensely by multiplayer.
Oh, okay. So, let's finish the subject that you're on, but I want to put another topic on the back burner. I want to talk about the idea of multiplayer in Resident Evil with Resident Evil 0 as the template.
If Resident Evil 0 actually had like good multiplayer, it could have been cool. But Resident Evil 0, like that intro sequence, so fucking good. Everything else after it is like trudging through the mud.
But Joey, that's what I'm saying. Joey, you gotta listen to me, man. Dude, imagine if you had applied like modernizations of Resident Evil 5's control mechanics with the Resident Evil Zero's base story, and then you worked around it and you cleaned it up. Fucking yeah, man, that'd be so good. I'd buy that. I'd buy that in a heartbreak.
Yeah, I mean, I like, it's weird because, like I said, I do think that like RE5 was elevated by multiplayer.
Yeah.
But I also don't really like want it either. Like to me, I wish RE5 had been designed more. First of all, I wish it had been more polished.
Yeah.
But secondly, I wish its design philosophies don't really vibe with me too much.
Okay.
So, as cool as that would be, because RE0, I feel like if you're going to have an RE game that actually has, like, multiplayer in any way that's, like, integrated into the core of the game's design, RE0 is standing right there.
Yes, exactly. I think it would work, but there's just so many other games that are on the list that could, that could have an interesting interpretation on how they could remake it. I guess the only criticism I have for, like, that kind of, like, style of gameplay is that
I was starting to get worried.
Don't you mean
Zero is still based off the template of RE1's philosophy of gameplay, which is like narrow corridors and spooky scary, and I don't know if that would work necessarily the same with a modern over-the-shoulder kind of two-player style. You know? I don't know if that would work. A lot of liberties would have to be taken.
Yeah, and I think RE0 is kind of a good game to experiment with in a way because it's not really like a cult classic, right? Like, if they remade RE0 and completely changed it, I don't think a lot of fans would be as up in arms as they would be with RE4.
It's a good chance to experiment for sure, simply because like the product itself is not really aged too well. It's not loved like the way RE4 is. Like, there's so much pressure from Capcom to fucking deliver on this RE4 remake. Good lord.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, like I said, I'm fairly optimistic about it. So
no, I choose to be optimistic too. I'd rather like Capcom's been on a good stride. They've done a lot of, they made a lot of good decisions rather than bad ones. At least in the past couple of years. So I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all. Let's see here. RE5 is the Godfall template of Resident Evil games. I don't know what Godfall is actually.
Oh, it's a Gearbox game. It was like a launch title for PS5. It's not very good.
Okay.
But you know, so I this is actually kind of funny. I was going to replay the whole Resident Evil series because I played RE7. Like some friends and I played RE7. And I was like, oh, okay, we'll go through the whole series. And like we were getting together on weekends and playing through the games. And we did RE7 and then like we started RE0. And then finished up RE0 and I'm like, that's it. It's over. My replay's done. I did it.
You didn't really like it that much. Yeah, it's kind of it's okay.
It's okay, yeah, but you know, okay, so John, I know, absolutely despises RE0. and I'm not a fan of it by any means, but I don't think it's completely awful. I think it has a lot of good going for it, and it's a short enough game to where it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers him.
You said like, RE6?
RE0.
RE0, okay. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. But like the fact that you like the prime way to store items in that game is to just fucking drop it on the floor, all over the ground.
Yeah,
so funny, dude.
It got obnoxious. Like at the end of the game, I had like rocket launcher ammo, grenade launcher ammo, just laying on the floor everywhere. The floor constantly looked just shiny and sparkly all the time. It was so obnoxious. It was so obnoxious. Bad call. All resource management went right out the window. Are you familiar with a quote by Soren Johnson? I'm about to say something you probably heard already before, but
the name isn't adding up.
Okay, so Soren Johnson's a game journalist, and he had this really beautiful sequence of words. I'm going to repeat to you right now. This is relevant. Gamers will optimize the fun out of the game if given the opportunity. Okay? That is a mantra you need to repeat over and over again if you ever have any interest in game development. Because if a player has an opportunity to optimize in a way that benefits them, but it's highly unfun to do, they don't care. They will do it if it gets the results that they want.
Right, so, like if you can, like a really good example of this is being able to cheese bosses off the ledge or something in Sekiro. Or
yes,
like,
exactly.
Yeah.
You have to keep that in mind at all times with game development.
But yeah, so like, okay.
Thank you.
So this is multifaceted too. This is actually, you know what, we could apply this to RE4 because there's a lot of. Have you ever watched a speedrun of this game?
I have not. Shockingly, no. I have not.
There's a lot of exploits.
Yeah, I believe
like, it's so funny. Like,
but that's what speedrunning is. It's all about exploits.
Right. It's like in the context. That's what it's about. And like one cheesy ass motherfucking dumb capital G gamer take that I see more often than I would like to admit is people saying stuff like, "Oh, speedrunning ruins the game. Like it ruins the fun of the game." Like,
yeah.
Bro, what? It's not like people Like, yeah, there are some people who don't really care about playing a game like casually, and will just learn how to speedrun it without really playing it casually. But that number is so fucking small, dude. It is so unbelievably small that it's not gonna have any effect on anybody.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, exactly. Are you even playing a game if you're speedrunning? Shut the fuck up.
Well, so the thing is with
So
speedrunning
stupid.
is that, like, it's a different philosophy being applied to the game now. So when a speedrunner plays a game, they're looking for shortcuts. They're looking for ways to improve efficiency on the run. And to be able to do that in the first place, to have the knowledge to recall on the fly in the heat of a timer, is incredibly stressful and impressive to do, all right? They're just playing the game in a completely different way than you can comprehend. And like you mentioned, most people aren't going to play that way. It's not applicable to them.
Right, yeah, exactly. 'Cause it's like that amount of information what do you say? Optimization is not like intuitive all the time, right? Like
it does happen sometimes. Like there are cases where bad game balance for the sake of like, you know, just making accommodations for players can like bring a good game down. Like a good example is Elden Ring.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we had this conversation about Elden Ring.
I won't talk about it too long because I won't shut the fuck up. But the short version is that, like, Elden Ring has really, really bad game balance, and yeah, sure, and it also has bad game, like it needs more polish. The game overall needs more polish because speedrunners right now are beating the game in like 5 minutes. All right, they're just glitching their way through the entire game, which is cool. I'm glad they can do it, but I guess to play devil's advocate for you're not even playing the game right. Just glitching through a game until you hit the end credit screen is not really as exciting as watching a player like fly through the air and, like, you know, use incredible precision and knowledge of game mechanics, you know? Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, totally. Right. No, I totally agree. Like, if something is just so fucking busted, all you have to do is just use the busted thing.
Yeah.
There's very little player expression there. Like, what's a really good example of... Okay, so here's an example. I'll give you an example of where that is the case in an interesting way.
Okay.
And it's Mega Man 11. So Mega Man 11 has this gear system that's not present in any other Mega Man games. Also, I love how they added these things, so like it's like to further nerf headshots even more.
Right.
Things that pop out. But yeah, so like Mega Man 11 has this gear system where you can slow down time or do like really powerful shots, etc., etc. So like obviously that's going to make the game easier because the game is designed to be beaten without them, but it's also designed to be, you know, beaten with them. It's like whatever. And no, like, I haven't tried speedrunning Mega Man 11 since like a couple months after it came out. But like, the way that you use those gears in a speedrun is really interesting because it's not just like a typical, oh, I got to use this to kill a boss like faster.
Okay.
It's like timing it perfectly with the amount of resources that you have available, mixed with like a ton of other mechanics that are implicit in the game. Like, so it's a really cool composite of like a mechanic that is very powerful but also very expressive.
In other words, from what I'm hearing so far, it sounds like it's not just an I win button. It requires a lot of player input to use it well. That's what I'm hearing so far.
Exactly. Yeah, because like you can use like the slow down stuff with the gears and make it easier for you, right? But then once that expires, then you're going to be shit out of luck and you're going to take a bunch of damage.
Yeah.
And use it well for a speed run, right? I mean, that's at the core of it is essentially that, Yahiko, like using it well. Like there are some things like here's a really good example. FF10's summoning system, right? Like you go into bosses with overdrive on your Aeons, and then you fucking annihilate the boss.
You just blast them to death and you win. There you go.
Yeah, and that doesn't really fucking take any effort. Like, I mean, granted, you know, there are super bosses and things that do challenge that, of course, but just like on a casual level, it's a very, very
I
easy
100% would call that, in that case, in that context, an I win button. You no longer have to learn the boss's like patterns, all the game devs' time they took, balancing the fight out for your level or whatever is just out the window, because you can just summon a dragon and he blasts the fight away and you're done. You don't have to try anymore. That's something I do take problems with.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know really if too many games have something like that in like outside of like the JRPG sphere have something like that. I don't think things in Elden Ring are that egregious, but they are really, really disappointing.
I would disagree. I think there are egregious examples of that in the game right now, where it's just full of I win buttons, where you just don't have to try anymore. Yeah, Rivers of Blood, the Moon Veil, fucking magic in of itself. I ran a sorcerer build for a second playthrough of Elden Ring. So I always play Souls games the same way every single time I go through it, okay? I always start as a knight. I don't summon for help. I always solo the bosses. No magic, bing, bang, boom, okay? I'm a good old-fashioned melee build, okay? And that was a mistake, because I didn't know that Elden Ring was designed to have a lot of magic use in mind this time around. And that was rough. My first time through was rough, all right? When I came back as a sorcerer, I just blasted my way past everything, all right? The game was almost, like, I didn't have to try very hard with anything. I just did Kamehameha, and I just blasted everything away. I watched bosses' health bars just get chainsawed off in seconds, all right? 100%. Elden Ring's balancing has problems, all right?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. I think
Seth,
that was.
By the way, Seth asked, "What's on the agenda for this Carvo? Arvo? I don't know what that means."
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, okay. If you can't, it's okay. It's not that important. But no, go on.
Yeah, no, I think I think that like that whole thing is just kind of just. It's not an oversight. It was definitely intentional, and I think that makes it worse.
Yes.
Right, because it means that like you're giving players granted. I don't think that like if you use Comet Azure or Moon Veil or Rivers of Blood, I don't think that you quote unquote didn't. Like I think that's
I think people are free to play the game however they want. I'm always going to I'm not going to be here and gatekeep players from playing the way they want to play. Fine.
Right.
But this goes back to the original statement that I stated at the start of the conversation. A player will optimize the fun out of a game if given the opportunity, okay?
Yeah.
Now, if you give your players the opportunity to just use Kamehameha and chainsaw the enemy's health bar off in an instant, they will use it. So, FromSoft choosing to put these tools in their game, knowing that players will use these tools, they knowingly made their game balance jank. That's their fault, not the players. You have to assume that the player will not enforce their own game balance.
Right, exactly. And I think that's like the problem, and that's exactly what I was saying about it being deliberate, right?
Yes,
like in that kind
I'm
of
criticizing the game itself, not the players. Players will always optimize. It's our nature to do so. We want to win, okay?
Yeah, and so I think, that's even more complicit with some of Elden Ring's design, because so many of the bosses are just like,
Head back to the
honestly, I kind of want to say copy pasted.
Yes.
They're like,
yes, they are.
I'm not saying that they weren't tested. They were obviously tested, but like stuff like just like there's like such a flow chart of bosses in that game. It's like you fight a boss, and then you fight the stronger version of the boss, and then you fight the boss with a second enemy, and then you fight the second enemy with the boss in a super form.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the same exact concept, and the game is designed like with so many mechanics, so many quick things that come out of nowhere that could just instantly kill you, to where you feel like you almost have to have some kind of advantage.
Yes, exactly. I think the way I described it towards the end of the game, I don't know about you, but I felt the last fourth of the game turned into, like, I have to cheat back versus the bosses cheating.
So, yeah, I will say there's, like, 4 bosses in the end game that are, like, just so much more difficult than anything else on, like, a basic... Because I played it with... My first playthrough was no summons, no ashes.
I respect that.
And
I ended up breaking that rule towards the end. I had to summon.
And I don't blame you. I don't blame you. There's a lot of stuff where I was like, this is bullshit. Like the, fuck, what did I... Oh, yeah, it was like the golden butterfly ring or this covetous golden serpent ring equivalent.
Yes.
And it's like in this cave with a ton of scarlet rot, and then the boss are those 2, what are they called? The knights. Not the crucible knights, but I forgot what they're called. But there's 2 of them.
I know the golden knight guys with the spear and a sword, right?
Yeah, and the fucking not Godskin, John. I don't think it's Godskin, but it's the the spear guy who shoots the scarlet rot stuff and shoots a million projectiles at you, and it's like I was going in there at like level 25 and I was so weak. And I was like, this fucking sucks. What are you buying? Like, I couldn't really burst down one very fast. It was just a lot of work. So obviously, the Elden Ring design philosophy is, oh, if you get stuck somewhere, you just come back, right? Yeah. And that's cool, right? I think that's interesting. I think that's a really cool design for like, like a mainstream audience. And I don't think that you quote unquote didn't beat the fight if you grinded and came back later by any means. But like
it feels like
so riddled with that.
It feels like a step backwards in terms of game balancing and careful like boss philosophy compared to Dark Souls 3. Because Dark Souls 3, I acknowledge that there are problems with its combat system. Dark Souls 3 suffers from wants to be Bloodborne-itis. So it wants to be Bloodborne, so it has Bloodborne-like boss fights and enemy philosophy and style. But the problem is that you're still running around with Dark Souls-like controls and rules. So your roll is dinky and a little weird, and you have the boss doing anime shit, okay?
Yeah.
So the way you counter that in Dark Souls 3 is you drop a shield and you two-hand your weapon and you R1 and roll. That's how you win. R1, roll. That's how you win. And to be fair, it creates some really cool boss fights. All right? It creates some really cool boss fights. Sister Friede is one of my favorite bosses in From ever. Slave Knight Gale is one of the best FromSoft fights ever made, all right? But 100%, that fight boils down to dodge and R1. That's it. That's all you do. So I was initially happy that Elden Ring introduced some new mechanics to try to break away from R1 dodge roll. So the posture system's a really cool idea. I love it. But the problem is that because the information is withheld from you, unlike in Sekiro, you're constantly left guessing. And you just don't really take advantage of it the way that you think you should. And guess what you end up doing towards optimized play in Elden Ring? R1 and dodge roll. It just becomes the same thing all over again.
Right, or like replace the R1 with whatever magic that you're using.
Yeah. And that
like
sucks. And that sucks. I wish it wasn't like that.
I mean, you could play, like, this is the thing, it's like, it comes back to the optimization that you can play it with, like, buffs and debuffs and, like, have it, almost have, like, a JRPG flow where you're, like, you're putting status effects on and you're strategic. But at the end of the day, like, why the fuck would you do that when you can just use Mimic Tier?
Exactly.
And, like, just bam bleed. It's oh no, rip, oh rip. Oh no, you're fine. You're fine.
It's okay. I only had my internal organ squished. It's no big deal.
But yeah, no, I think that's definitely a problem with Elden Ring, and I think that like in the context of the game, it's not the worst thing in the world because the game is still fundamentally fun to me.
Oh yeah, I still love it. I'm on my 3rd playthrough right now, but it's just what's gonna be one of those things is always gonna be biting at the back of my head of like, hey, this could be way better if this wasn't here or if this was fixed. And
Yeah.
knowing that makes it sours the experience. 100% it does.
Right, and I'm divided because it's like on one hand, it's unreal to me to know how well Elden Ring did. A game
Yeah.
like that being as popular as it is, and to like just like a cultural phenomenon. That makes me really happy, like because I've played fun games since fucking King's Field 2 on PlayStation 1 and it made me cry.
Yeah.
It's really cool to finally see a developer that had such potential almost matching it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and maybe I'm selfish here, but I wish that they would just drop the Souls formula and just do something new, because I don't think you can innovate it. I think you need to put some distance between some time and distance before you could try to innovate on that Souls formula more.
Yeah, maybe you just need to take a break from it for a little while. Let it go to sleep. Like Godzilla.
Right.
Let it go back into the ocean, you know?
Right, and I don't mean to bring this up to Mega Man once again, but Mega Man had a really similar problem where it was like it just kept feeling too iterative, and when you
Going through the
start
motions.
just going through the motions, yeah. And I'll say I think the From games have been much more successful on both a critical and commercial level. But it is a similar cadence to me. Like to see a specific type of game get I don't want to say milked, but just kind of I don't know, overused, because the developers are very creative and they're very, very good, and I would love to see them do something new and just maybe not innovative, just something new.
Yes, it's time to switch it up, right? Like, we've been doing the same shit. You could almost say it's time for a Resident Evil 4 makeover, you know?
You know what? Honestly, well, even then, I don't know, because I feel like in a lot of ways, Elden Ring kind of almost is the RE4 of Souls games. But so, how do I describe? Okay, Prague. It's like Prague.
What's Prague?
Prague musicians, really talented musicians. Listening to a lot of really good prog records is awesome.
Okay.
But if you're sitting there and you're wanking on a guitar for the 400th time across the 6th album,
Yeah.
it's okay, now you're just now it's lost its emotion, its catharsis, and it's only cool on a very mechanical level.
Yeah.
It's oh cool, it's cool that you can do those sweeps and change time as signatures and maybe apply some effects in a really interesting way. And we kind of talked about this in our music podcast a little bit.
I'll have to tune in for that.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of what FromSoft is doing. FromSoft is becoming a little too confident in their prog skills. I don't know.
No. The way I interpreted Elden Ring is it felt like at least the initial thesis statement of Elden Ring was that it was supposed to be the best of album of its entire franchise, because it has DNA from every single one of their previous games. And I have no problem with that. I think that's great. I wish there was a little bit more DNA from Sekiro extracted. That would have made me happy. But I don't have a problem with learning and progressing from what you've learned from the past and applying it and refining the process. That's something that Miyazaki has done with all of his games. I'm not counting Dark Souls 2, but even Dark Souls 2 has ideas in it that ended up being incorporated into Elden Ring. I don't think that the concept of Elden Ring was inherently bad. I just think that there were a few missteps in the execution of that idea.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who are really, really into Elden Ring and consider it their favorite FromSoft game. I'm not saying this is true of everyone, or maybe I'm not even trying to imply that it's correlative. Just anecdotally from what I've seen, a lot of people who I've seen say Elden Ring is my favorite of the Souls-likes.
Yes.
I don't know if they've really put a whole lot into them, because you said you see the DNA of multiple From games.
Yes.
In Elden Ring. Which you definitely do, and sometimes at its detriment, because you have bosses and stuff that are very clearly ripped from certain games. You see a boss and you're like, oh, that's Gale's moveset.
Yes.
or that's Ornstein and Smo, or so on.
In other words, it doesn't seem to like tread its own pathway that much. It just seems to be just repaving the same paths that the other games have already did, and because of that familiarity, it's not as exciting anymore.
Exactly, man. Exactly. And I think like you know, I think it has its. I think it's a really good game. It's maybe in my top 3 or 4. I don't know if I'd put it over DS3. I think I like DS3 more.
Yeah, I would say Sekiro and Bloodborne are still my favorite FromSoft games.
Oh, that's I think Bloodborne and DS1 are probably tied for mine, and it's like either DS3 or maybe even Elden Ring after that. And it's weird to be criticizing a game that like is this good, right? Like
I mean, it's just at its core because you put so much time into this franchise, you have more knowledge of it. One position that I've always found strange is that a person will spend hundreds of hours playing a game and then conclude they hate it. And what's wrong with that? Because if you have a lot of experience with something, it's going to influence your opinion on it.
Right, and just because you dislike something doesn't mean that there aren't any redeeming qualities.
For sure.
Like, you know, like I'm not a huge fan of Dark Souls 2. Like I think it's a good game. I think it like I have fun sometimes when I play it. I did try hard shit in it because it was part of the reason why was because it was hard. And maybe that's my own sickness, like my own completionist
I mean,
sickness.
I'm a sweaty tryhard too. I get it, 100%.
Right, you know the sweat. So like, yeah, I mean, but that being said, like, you know, like I'll bitch about that game forever, but I do legitimately really enjoy aspects of it. And
I put easily 500 hours into that game. I mean, that's the thing, man. Like when I play a FromSoft game, I go hard. All right, and unfortunately, like I feel like a lot of people who love Dark Souls 2, it might come from a degree of Stockholm syndrome, for lack of a better term, because at the time when Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, particularly when it came out, that was the only other FromSoft game that was available at the time. We were starved for more content. We just wanted to play Dark Souls again. So I just ended up playing that game instead. That's just what I had to do. So I played it a lot. And whenever I got to sections I didn't like, I would just whine about it and keep playing it.
Right, that's what I did too. But I'm I want to rewind for a second. And,
go ahead.
This Demon Souls erasure that you're perpetuating here, because you said it was the only other one. Because we had Dark Souls.
Okay,
Demon Souls.
Fair. I didn't have a PlayStation 3, so I never got to play Demon Souls.
Fair, yeah. Also, Demon Souls was a little crusty for a while. I think going back to OG Demon Souls, even PS5 Demon Souls, a little crusty in a lot of ways, especially if you're expecting something more like Bloodborne or even DS2.
Yeah.
But no, I feel that, man. It's like when Dark Souls 2 came out, I was super pumped for it. And did you play it on release?
Did I play it on release? Yes, I did.
Yeah. So you remember the PC issues that it had?
Oh,
where,
yeah.
The game ran too well at a higher frame rate than it was supposed to. So like, iframes were fucked up, and you'd have like half the amount. So like, things would hit you through walls when you were nowhere near them.
Yeah. Oh god.
You'd straight up dodge through an attack, and it would still hit you. And like,
that's still an issue. That's still an issue now.
It's still
with Elden Ring.
it's still an issue. The progression, like limited resources for progression stuff, like so much. The fucking level design. The level design in that game makes me ape shit. I feel like that's what drives me nuts about Dark Souls 2 more than anything.
Having a active volcano in the sky is totally logical, right?
Oh, well, not aesthetic level design, like the way that enemies are laid out and the environments, and but that does tie into stuff like bonfires being literally viewable from one another, shit like that.
Yeah, that was a bad call, 100%.
Yeah, and it just felt like just so much of that. I mean, and I get it though, because all the development hell that game went through, I'm sure the developers were crunched to the high heavens. Look, I get it, and I think, you know, it's always important to consider all the technical and logistical implications of a game's release, and
Right.
Dark Souls 2 is
Don't come.
definitely the sum of those parts.
Yeah.
Take it easy.
Oh, this is the best part of Resident Evil 4. This is definitely the best part of it.
Calm down.
The partner part of
Everything's
Resident Evil
gonna be
4
just
gotta be
fine.
my favorite thing.
No, I unironically like the Ashley mechanic. I don't mind her at
I
all.
kinda hate it. I hate it personally.
Okay, well, allow me to show you how to Leon Ashley good. Because
Okay.
I like to think I'm pretty good at taking care of Ashley, all right?
Leon, I've succeeded.
I have a
in
really
myself.
funny take that I'm sure this has been repeated on certain forums, but you can tell how good someone is at Resident Evil 4 by their opinion of Ashley.
The chopper will
I'm on my way.
I just don't like I get that if you're gonna have a Resident Evil game with a partner mechanic, it's probably best to be this one.
Yeah, I mean, because at least with Ashley, because the thing is, Ashley has rules, all right? I'm going to go over it on stream, but... So the thing is, Ashley will always relatively stick to Leon's back, okay? She always sticks to Leon's back. If I tell her to stay, she stays. If I tell her to come, she comes over. If I tell her to stop and I hold aim at her, she will dodge. She will duck. Unless I aim at her and shoot her, but I won't do that.
Yeah, you don't do that.
But the point is that if I aim, she will always go to my back. The point is, these rules are consistent. They are consistent. So as long as I understand the rules of Ashley's mechanics, I can always predict what she's gonna do and how to manipulate it. So, in other words, I have control over what Ashley does in a weird, disjointed kind of way.
Yeah, I would say more so than RE0. Because RE0, numerous times, like, you'd have your partner just, like, shooting at a wall or, like, stuck behind something. Ugh.
Woof. My understanding is the best way to experience RE5 is with a partner to play with, right?
Yeah, RE5, yeah.
All right.
I'm
gonna
sorry,
be-
I said RE0. I don't know
Okay,
if
so
that-
I
if
could
that's-
do the thing where I look up, but I'm going to be respectful of Ashley's
No.
video game autonomy, and I will not. Okay.
You see those choppy polygon
But
eyes.
I'm just saying I could if I wanted to.
How chivalrous. Just chivalry truly is not dead.
I know, right? But no, my point is that Ashley mechanic is really not that bad. For all the reasons I just listed, as long as you understand her rules, you're generally able to keep her out of trouble. That's actually something I hope that Resident Evil Remake works on a little bit more. Is that the Resident Evil 4's Ashley mechanic is mostly solved most of the time by just sticking Ashley in a garbage can and then forgetting about her.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hoping that they give us more opportunities to like have Ashley as a character that you have to like watch over more, but like refine the mechanics more. Because sticking her in a garbage can and not making the enemies not see her is a cop-out, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's a cop-out.
Okay, here's my complaint about it. So I actually like micromanaging. I think it's kind of fun.
Okay.
But my problem is that you can't really use Ashley offensively in a really good way, right? Like you can't. Again, we're back on the optimization thing, but like I do think it would be cool if you can like use her to block off enemies without like severely putting yourself at risk. Like I think if there was like a risk reward element of her, it could be really cool.
So here, finish your thought and I'll talk.
I guess the only thing is that, you know, like, does the game really need that? Is my only real challenge to myself, I guess.
So I hear what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from. I do see the merit of Ashley having an offensive capability to her that would be an interesting game mechanic. But remember the original thesis statement that we're hoping Resident Evil Remake goes with, which is be scary. Okay?
Right.
So if Ashley becomes a sawed-off shotgun, character for you, that's not going to help make the game be scary, okay?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is not very progressive to say, but Ashley being a helpless girl that you have to protect makes the game scarier. It just does, okay?
Right. Okay, I see that. Yeah, it adds a layer of danger that, like, power-hungry secret agent Leon, like, it handicaps you in a way.
Yes. In other words,
It affects you.
you have to look out for her too. and it puts you into the role a little bit more. And as much as frustrating as that can be in games, as long as the mechanics are refined, they're responsive, the rules are consistent, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Gamabot says, my hot take is that no game that gives you a weapon to defend yourself is scary. I mean, yeah, I mean, to be fair, the reason why Resident Evil 4 is not very scary is because Leon's a fucking badass, all right?
Yeah, that's true. So that is true, but I don't know about the weapon thing. Because, like, I mean, even Silent Hill is Silent Hill 2 especially is one of the most terrifying games ever to me. And, like, you have offensive options in that game. You definitely do.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, great. Ashley, come on.
Is there even any, like, what's an example of a game that where you don't have a weapon that's scary to you, Alonso?
For me personally, I don't play those games.
Yeah, I mean, kind of same. You know, I played a lot of, like, you know, no combat survival horror stuff, and it's like I just don't really like playing it.
I can think of examples. I can think of examples right now. Alien Isolation. Fucking what's that one game where you like go insane slowly because there's a spooky guy following you around?
Eternal. Oh wait. Well, there's Eternal Darkness that has a similar mechanic.
Yeah, but that's an example too.
Oh, Simulacra. Okay, yeah, I see that. Actually, I see that.
But no, I mean, Gomabot does make a good point. Unfortunately, it's just true. This goes back to my original point. The more competency and agency the player has over his world in the game, the less scary the game is going to be. It's just true.
Yeah, unless you have a team full of party finder randoms from FF14 that you have to manage in Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
In which case, that would be extra terrifying. That would be like a true survival horror game. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I want to play that, actually.
Yeah, but like the thing is, like, Gomabot, this goes back to the original topic we were talking about earlier, was that unfortunately, games that go that hard on removing player agency and disempowering the player, they don't sell very well. And if you want to be Capcom making like $1 billion on a video game, you gotta make some broad accommodations. Even Resident Evil 8, I don't remember who said it, the head game devs, I think it was, I can't remember his name. He stated that one of their intentions was with Resident Evil 8 was to reduce the scary because they want to make sure that the game's not too scary to a point where it'll reduce sales. They just flat out said it. And I get the impression that's probably going to be the case with RE4 Remake. Yes, it's going to be spookier. I don't know if it's going to be to the degree of, I don't know, like Resident Evil 1.
Spooky.
Yeah, full stop spooky Resident Evil 1 Remake scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's a fair guess.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Alien Isolation now, and what I think was interesting about that game is that, you know, you had weapons. You had the gun, the revolver, and like the flamethrower. Is it a flamethrower?
Yeah, it's a flamethrower.
But like, they're never like, they have their uses, but they're never the go-to de facto response for everything in that game.
It's not an I win button.
Right, at all. And it's like, you still have to, like, so you do have a weapon, but like, it's not like a complete defensive tool. Right?
Yes.
It only stops a couple.
But that goes back to, once again, player agency and feelings of control and agency.
Right.
I'm going to keep saying it. A player will optimize the fun out of a game if given the opportunity. And if a tool is just all-encompassing problem solver, they'll just use that over and over again. And that's why Alien Isolation in this context is being a good horror game, because you have to be resourceful with what you're given. And if a tool is useful only for certain situations, just to give yourself a cooldown, a breather, then that's what it's useful for. But it's not going to protect you forever. Because there's no way to like stop the alien for good. He's gonna come back and get you later.
Solstice, I don't think that's true of you in particular.
No game scares me because I know it's just a video game.
If maybe I'm just conflating you with somebody else, but I could have sworn that you said that you were scared of many games. calling you out. But yeah, no, I mean, like, okay, I think a really good example of. I think I'm wrong. Okay, I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong. I think a good example of like a game giving you a tool that I did not use was stealth in Sekiro. I can't. Yeah. I don't have the fucking patience for it, dude. I have no patience for it. Like, if I'm running around and an enemy doesn't see me, yeah, sure, I'm gonna stealth kill him, whatever. Like, if I see somebody from the rafters or something, yeah, that's not bad. I can just jump and then press the button. It's not too bad. But like, I'm not gonna sit there and like patiently take out every single enemy in the camp when I can just like run up and deflect and kill them.
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you a question. Did you play the game on no Kuro Charm or Demon Bell mode?
I did Demon Bell and the Kuro Charm thing. Yeah, so
wow.
I've done the hard mode stuff.
Wow. Okay. I stand corrected then, because when I tried clearing the maps on no Kuro Charm and Demon Bell mode on New Game Plus, I got my shit kicked in. I felt like, okay, this is where I need to start using stealth, because if I don't, I'm gonna get warble garbled by like 5 enemies at once, and I'm gonna die.
Which does happen, yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely happens.
So that was, to me, my conclusion on the stealth mechanic is that because Sekiro is so competent at deflecting enemies and fighting just punching away all of his problems, essentially, you don't have to use stealth. But if the game presents you a situation where you have to use these mechanics, then you use them. But I guess that's a good criticism of Sekiro. You never had situations where you were forced to actually use these mechanics.
Right. And I don't think that's I like that personally. But I will say, Alonzo, I gotta vehemently disagree. Stealth in a game like Sekiro seems so counterintuitive. No. No, there's a reason why enemies are designed to be troublesome when you fight multiple of them at the same time. And it's the whole theme of the game is like a big part of the design philosophy of the game is using stealth. The combat is designed around like strategic 1v1 fights. And so like, you want to get to that point. Like, yeah, you could unga bunga it like I did, but like at the same time, that's not really like, that's very clearly not the design impetus.
That was not the intended game experience.
Right, exactly. And I mean, granted, we're going into this like intent argument again for sure, but I do think that like it's very obvious that the game's level design sets you up to stealth around certain things. If you look at the encounter design in that game, each area has like a stealth path that you can take.
Yes.
In a way that's like lets you min-max or optimize your stealth potential.
I really wish you were here for when I did my playthrough of Sekiro, because I 100% did all of those things you just mentioned right now.
I watched a lot of your Sekiro.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah. But no, that's exactly what I did. I was taking advantage of all of those little accommodations that the game devs gave me.
Yeah, and I feel like that's like the big holistic experience of Sekiro. The game is definitely designed for you to do that. Like it wants you to succeed at it. But yeah, I unga bunga the shit out of that game too. I don't.
It works, so it doesn't matter. It works.
It doesn't. Yeah, it works. I probably had a lot of stupid deaths that I could have easily avoided if I just had been a little bit more patient.
Yeah, but the point is that because the game mechanics allowed you to get away with that, you did it, and there's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, a win's a win.
Right.
So that was a game limitation, not your fault as a player.
Right. And what I just really like how you 100% don't have to, like, it's not imposed on you. And maybe I'm just biased because I don't like stealth mechanics.
Okay.
Like, I don't have the patience. Like, when I play Metal Gear Solid, I play that game like an actual fucking moron. Like, I want to kill everything. I don't want to stealth. But, I mean, at the same time, I'm not going to criticize the game for not catering to my style, right?
Yeah.
You know, like, the game is very clearly not designed to be played like that. And that's fine. And I respect that.
But the point is that the option is there to do so if you want to.
Exactly. And I respect that. that design philosophy a lot.
And it also depends on like what difficulty did you approach the game with, because like I know the only Metal Gear I played pretty extensively was Metal Gear Solid 3 Sustenance, and European Extreme Mode. You're not going to get away with that. You have to be invisible.
Oh, not at all.
Uh-huh.
No, I'm a fucking little Timmy at Metal Gear Solid. I'll play it like easy or normal. You know,
And that's okay. I'm glad that multiple difficulties exist to accommodate that kind of play style. But as a overall stealth game mechanic experience, Sekiro is what I would describe in its margins of its gameplay genre. I would say it's like 90% action, 10% stealth. There's very little actual stealth required in that game.
That's true. That is true, actually. But yeah, no, it's just like a personal thing. Like, fuck, what was I playing relatively recently? Oh yeah, Ys 9, because Daiko's been playing Ys 9, so it's fresh in my head. Did you watch any of this, Vince?
I've seen a couple of them. Ys doesn't really do anything for me. I don't know why. It just doesn't give me that neuron activation. It doesn't do it for me personally.
I think you put yourself in a flashcard game and you might reconsider that. Like, it's one of those games that probably doesn't look super amazing, but like when you sit down and like you have that control.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's going to give you the same like Souls experience, but it does have like a speed to it that I think that you might.
Okay.
That you might enjoy.
I'm kind of hearing what you're saying is like the mechanics of the game are super satisfying, and I'll probably find that compelling.
Right, and I feel like there's no way you don't get some kind of, dopamine response from flashcarding things well. Like, it feels really good, and
Yeah.
it's like it's tactile. Like, if you dodge something at the right time, the game slows down and you're able to be more offensive. Or if you guard something, all your attacks become crits for like 3 seconds and you do a shitload of damage. So like mixing those two things together is like, holy shit, like you feel all powerful.
Yeah.
And sometimes at its detriment because it could be very spammy and there's a lot of things going on. But I'll tell you why I brought this up though, is because that game has stealth sections. And granted, they're like baby stealth. It's like the easiest possible level of stealth. But I hated those sections, dude. I hated playing them because like I just don't like stealth. Are they not well designed? I could probably argue that they're not. But like I just don't like them on a personal level because of that.
Does nothing for you. It's understandable.
Right. There's a reason I played Greatsword in Monster Hunter. Or I did play Greatsword in Monster Hunter. I wanted to hit the thing with the big sword, and that's all I wanted.
You want to see the big number produce the feel-good chemical,
I want
right?
to see the big number. That's all I want. And you know what, man? That's my cross to bear.
Yeah. No, it's understandable. But that's everyone's got their own preference. I get that.
Also, I do not. Oh, Valor Style. That's what I did, dude. That's what I played Longsword. I played Valor Longsword in GU. The little I played of it.
Longsword user. Ew.
But no, dude. So okay, Longsword. I don't like Longsword, but I liked it I liked Valor Longsword in GU.
What's the difference?
Valor?
Yeah.
Wait, have you played GU?
I have not.
I'm
actually, I would describe myself as still a newbie to the series overall. I got into Monster Hunter through Iceborne, and I fell in love after that, but I never played any of the games as a kid. I just saw it and went, and never gave it a shot, which I regret now because I love it now.
So you basically get a different a resource and gauge, and so with Valor it gives you an option to basically parry attacks. So if you know the timing of stuff, and you don't the timing can be rough. It's like a small window, but I don't know. Once you get used to it, you hit it no problem. And you go into basically a special stance that allows you to do fucking nuts ass damage. So it being able to dodge and parry stuff puts you at an extreme advantage offensively. It's just so good. It's so good. They kind of what's the world mechanic? Wait, Alonzo, you played World, right? Didn't I forgot what World did that sort of implemented. But there's 5 different styles that you can have for each weapons. Yeah, Yeah.
Yeah, I count. Yeah. No. I have very little experience with longsword in World. My understanding is longsword in Rise is so incredibly busted that it basically just completely broke any kind of game balance. Yeah, longsword is basically an I win button in Rise, unfortunately.
Honestly, it kind of is in GU, but at least it like involves a lot of actual involvement from you. Like if you fuck up your counters, then you get blasted. But but yeah, no, Rise is different. And so like the mechanics of GU are super sick. All the little things it offers, I don't think any other Monster Hunter game really gives you. Like there's just so much like potential and so many options you have. It's just like everything else about GU is kind of rough.
Yeah.
Like the quality of life, the UX, the game has loading screens for each little area. It could be really frustrating, and I just got so burnt out on the Switches because it's a 3DS game technically.
Right.
But the Switch's limitations for it. But yeah, it's definitely it could definitely be overwhelming, like he says. That being said, I think we probably want to
Call it soon.
wind down here.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. There's one last section we're gonna do, and then we'll call the stream, okay?
Yeah, let's go for it. Yeah.
By the way, I could easily talk for another hour. This is so much fucking fun.
Yes,
But if you want to continue, like if people want to just see me just beat Resident Evil 4 over the course of a few streams,
Yeah,
I would be
dude, that'd
super
be-
down.
That'd
I'd be
great, man.
No, because I don't mind just playing Resident Evil 4 and just shooting the shit. Because very clearly there's a lot more subjects we want to touch on. But yeah, no, RE4 good. RE4 good game. Pretty okay game, guys.
It's a good game. It's a good video game.
It's a good video game. You know, just set a few precedences. You know, just kind of like just to go and buy. I'm gonna unsubscribe from my e-girls to support the homies. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Leon, I have some
Yeah, you
bad
should
news.
get John on here. I think he would be a really good.
Oh no! Next
Black
time,
Counter.
no, next time, when we do another stream, I don't mind throwing in more people into the conversation.
Meanwhile, I want you to
It lets
head
me
towards the
concentrate on the game a little bit more. I have more people to bounce off of, as long as like it doesn't exceed like, I don't know, 4 people. I can handle that, because like when I hear too many voices on the stream, it starts to get like overstimulating, and
yeah.
I can't focus anymore.
I think 2 or 3 is probably the sweet spot.
Yeah,
Like,
2 to 3.
total
3 is the
people.
hard cap. I would agree with that for sure.
You, Leon.
All right, we're gonna
Like,
watch this
unless
cutscene until we get to the until Luis Serra says the line. He's got to say the line.
Ooh, snore lane. Damn. Wow, John.
Poor Wayne.
Wow.
Leon.
He is a
do your
mod.
work.
Wait, actually, no, he's not. I don't think I ever made John a mod.
All right, guys. Shh. Right, here. He's gonna say the
The
line.
president's equipped his daughter with ballistics too.
Yay, booby joke. Okay, moving on.
Wait, I didn't realize that you subbed, Alonzo. Thank you. For some reason, I think our alerts are bonked, and it's not showing up in the event list either.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I'm sorry. We're still like hammering out the kinks right now.
Yeah, that's really weird though, because this dude followed, or Dupenny followed during the stream, and it showed up.
Yeah.
That's really weird. Either way, thank you, dude. I really, really appreciate it. It all goes. What you guys don't know about Cerulean Skies is that it's like low key in MLM, and so this way, like,
Christ.
once we hit a certain number of subs, everybody gets like a bunch of Aveda kits that they have to sell door to door. So we're like getting closer and closer.
Hey guys,
to
remember to invest in your Frowny NFT. It's very important. I'm only selling it for about $100,000 a picture. Get the Frowny NFT on Cerulean Skies.
Yeah, Herbalife. Yeah, you know, honestly, with the vibe we're cultivating with the UI for Cerulean Skies, I think Herbalife is definitely the plan. But is it green or red Herbalife? We don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll mix them together.
No, bro, it's yellow Herbalife. It's yellow herbs, because yellow herbs are the best
There you
ones.
go.
Yellow
There
herbs
you
are
go.
where it's at, fam. All right, this is infamous. This is infamously difficult. This is one of the hardest sections in the game.
This is, yeah.
The cabin sequence. I'm gonna try my best to do this without screwing it up. I'm trying to do a little bit of like strategy here and there. So what I did was I used the bookshelves to like bottleneck the way they can come in. Guys, this is kind of a lie. All right, this is what I saved these. This is what I saved this for.
You know, I say you got 2-3 guys.
Got 2-3 guys, no big deal.
2-3 guys coming through the windows. You know.
Oh my God. Okay, Luis, I need you to do the thing where. Stop that. I really got to take advantage of these invincibility frames the game gives me. Okay, this is kind of a lie.
Oh boy. Oh, all right.
All right, there's probably a guy behind me right now.
Yeah, there's two.
Ah, fuck! Okay, this is bad. All right, I need to use another flash grenade. Stop that! Okay, so the Plaga, they are the biggest threat here. They are terrible to deal with. So once they start flailing, if you get hit even once, that's like 75% of your health bar gone. You do not want to get hit by them. So upstairs helps a little bit because it reduces their ability to surround me. Rude. Oh wow, are you kidding me?
Oh no, what?
Oh, what? Why did I do so much damage? Okay.
What the fuck?
Yeah, no, I saw what happened. I took a headshot from an axe, and then the guy followed up with a with a torch swing. So I guess what I'm saying is I got true comboed. I got true comboed.
Yeah, you got the axe hit confirm into the torch swing.
Yeah, there was no way to escape. It was over.
I love how this chat has just become North Lane discourse. What has happened here?
What is North Lane? I actually don't know what that is.
They're a band.
Okay.
They're arguing about two different bands.
Oh god. Ah, fuck! I messed up. I didn't mean to do that. I combined my yellow herb with the green herb instead of the red one. I fucked up.
So
Yeah, whatever.
well, you're trying to push the MLM.
Yeah, no, I gotta remember to push my my Frowny NFT. It's really important, guys.
Don't forget, dude. That's why you died, actually. If you had just been backed up on the blockchain, then you would not have died there. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, that was just bad luck. That normally almost never happens. I'm gonna blame the stream. It's your fault, guys.
That's true. Yeah, it's definitely that. I mean, honestly, man, like the streamer curse is so real, and like Yaiko knows this especially. I feel like he gets it really bad. And
Okay.
I feel like Seth knows it too from his Hollow Knight experience.
Yeah. I respect anyone who can play Hollow Knight, man. That game is hard. I did the Path of Pain. Did you ever do the Path of Pain?
In Hollow Knight?
In Hollow Knight, yeah.
No, I only did the critical path when the game came out.
Oh,
and
okay.
I never did any besides that.
Ah, fuck. I hear two of them right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my rule. I don't pop out a flash grenade until there's two in the area. Okay, that's...
Seth, you should charge people to get the platinum. I've made real world dollars getting the Dark Souls platinum for people.
Oh, that's wild. Why? Who pays for that shit?
Dude, people who suck. I also made actual money in Pokemon Sword and Shield. I made like $300. I paid for the cost of the game like 3 times over, so that's okay.
No, that's wild, by the way. Did you know people will pay actual money for runes in Elden Ring?
That's ridiculous.
It is! It is! It's fucking bananas! Who does this?
You wandered Pokemon and Sword and Shield? Like, just like touch trade? Alonso, is that what you're talking about? That's funny. Also, you should join the Discord, dude. I think, hold on, let's see. How do I do? You guys can bitch about music or jump on a music podcast or something. Oh, I see.
Ah, come on! I hate
Dude,
this.
that's it. 25 out. Well, okay, Seth. What you want to do is you want to charge your hourly rate for your regular job. You want to charge that for a Hollow Knight plat for 25 hours. So whatever your hourly rate is times 25. As your accountant and MLM supporter, I will say that you should be doing this.
I do appreciate your commitment to the bit.
Dude, no, I'm nothing if not committed to the bit. Let me just say that one.
And the thing is like, I don't know shit about MLM. I don't really know anything about that. I just know that it exists.
I don't really know that much either. I have one friend who got really into it, and I wouldn't really consider them a friend. Yeah.
Not anymore, anyway.
Yeah, not anymore. But yeah, 60 an hour for it was. Oh my god.
I mean, I kind of get why it's been more proliferant over the years. It's because like we're in the age of like the scam, the hustle. Like people, like it's hard. Like money's getting tighter, so they're gonna take shortcuts. It's kind of like it's searching for the I win button equivalent of making money in real life. You know?
Definitely. And you know what? Well, fuck. What's 60 times 25? What is that? It's
Oh dear.
1,500. 1,500? It's something. 1,500, yeah. So, $1,500 for Hollow Knight plat.
Wait. Say that one more time. What?
$1,500
like they're
for
backing
one
off.
Hollow Knight platinum.
So,
Damn.
what do we do now?
What? Why? What are you trying to prove? Are you just trying to prove to internet weirdos that you're good at video games? I don't get it.
Yeah. I'm just trying to have him make money. That's all I'm saying, man. Late stage capitalism. No
I guess
ethical
if there's a market out there, go for it. I guess.
Yeah, my thing is like, if someone's gonna do it, if someone wants to do that, I'll fucking do it. You know.
I guess so. I don't know, man. Like I've always considered being good at video games is just kind of a thing. It's just a hobby. Like if I make money off of it, that'd be cool. But I don't really consider it to be something that like I would like actively act towards, like for having a viable income with.
I made real world money off World of Warcraft. I made more from just playing World of Warcraft how I would normally than I would have made in a minimum wage job.
That's sad.
That's all I'm saying.
I mean, that's cool, but it's also sad.
It's sad. It's very sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first off, the fact that people would pay money for something like that, and secondly, the fact that like the minimum wage jobs paid so. I mean, to be fair, this was in like 2006.
I mean,
So
to be
minimum
fair,
wage is a different number then.
since then, minimum wage has stayed effectively the same, which is also incredibly depressing. But
Yeah.
I don't really want to
you know
get
what,
that.
not in Chicagoland, but nationwide. Yeah. That's gross. It's gross.
All right, we just survived the cabin section, and I only did it with one death. I guess I'll take that. I usually am pro gamer status, and I never die. But it's only off stream, of course.
Bro, yeah, I mean, you're on a stream, so you're automatically at like you have like a 20% debuff, just by default. Like, there's again, no judge. Like that's just the way it is.
I mean, okay, just to give myself a little bit more credit, or at least in this case, like give myself a little bit of understanding. When you're on stream, like I've developed a skill for doing this. It's like talking to you, playing the video game, reading comments. The pressure of being watched by people for sure does contribute.
Dude, I gotta say, you're killing it. Like you're really good at like keeping tone and pace while also, keeping a conversation going.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, like, that's one weird thing, like that's kind of happened over the course of the pandemic. Of all the skill sets, I didn't think I would develop while being stuck at home, like talking to effectively nobody. It's holding a conversation and talking to people. I just got good at it. I would have to credit Discord calls of all things.
I'm gonna gas you up, King. It's fine. And speaking of gassing up kings, Seth, you should just stream Hollow Knight right now. It's 2 p.m. your time. Just fucking stream it.
Yeah. Real talk though, like I think this is a good place to stop. This is we are officially at the 3-hour mark. We ended up streaming 1 hour longer than we originally estimated. So
that's okay.
Yeah. I will 100%. I'm super stoked to do this again. Just name the time, and we'll set another time to do this again.
You name the time, man.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of Cerulean Skies. And folks, if you like Cerulean Skies, if you like what you see, if you like the content, if you like hanging with your boys, go ahead and follow us on social media. Is that even the right thing? Yeah, that's what it is. You can join our Discord. You can throw us some bits. You can throw us some subs. Because if you're sitting in this channel and you're not throwing money at us, then what the fuck are you doing? You're being a terrible viewer. So, folks, go ahead and throw some money at us. This way we can afford Vince a house. The poor man is homeless right now. He's living in a hotel playing Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
Please financially support this man.
No.
He's going through a lot.
I need cheeseburger funds, people. I need it. I need it. No.
true.
I do like your podcast, your cadence. You hit that just right. Hit that just right.
The ASMR.
Yeah. Anyways, folks, we'll talk to you later. All right. Good night. See you guys
Take
later.
care, y'all.
All right. Bye.